In the world of motorsports, there are many tracks out there which are, well, admittedly globally famous, Le Mans being one of them. And on the week of the real life Le Mans 24 hours, GPVWC returns from its 4-week spring break to yet another famous track in Imola. I am joined today by Amir, myself being Lorenzo Eterovic-Funcic, with the ever so lovely Remco Zeeuw on cameras. Amir, for a change, you let me have an intro. And your intro so far this season left not only yourself, but the fans as well breathless. Do you think the driving on track today will leave us all breathless as well?
Pretty interesting to tell. We haven't been in Imola for about well over, I think, about a year. The last time we have raced was all the way back in 2024, as which case we have seen new drivers. I don't think we've actually seen, there's only a handful of drivers in the grid that have appeared in the 2024 race. But as we look back before the sprint break and our first sprint break of the season, what a time it was at Montreal. And we kind of get to something a little bit similar in width to here in Imola. And a bit of a reminder for what happened over at Montreal as you look over to the standings. It was a first ever win for Alfie Denley in race 2 as he managed to get for his first 20 points and his first of the season as well. But Dan Hayek, meanwhile, it was up to him. He gets himself promoted up to 7th as he makes it an Moldova drive 2 race wins in a row at that point, which promptly excels him to the contention for the best of the rest. But you can already see the gaps are just slowly starting to close in. But Ben Skinner, more importantly, has the advantageous gap to push himself up ahead from Glomsetter, who finished 8th and 4th. Double fourths for Ben Skinner means that he's on 20 points. Curtis, meanwhile, we'll go over to him. He's on 3rd with Lakoni Nagorkowski, 2 points adrift from him. Then it's Thijs Youngstra in 5th with Jonas Karla in 6th. And after Dan Hayek in 7th, it's Philip Savinsky in 8th. Mika Kimi still holds on to 9th. And it's Magnus Okenhag that rounds off for the 10. He is just about 3 points away from Justin Van Smith, just outside of the top 10. But speaking of Casper Curtis, Lorenzo, I'm sure you want to break us the news of the major driver changes that we're going to see here in preparation for Imola.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a massive shake-up in the 4 weeks since we've last raced, not just in FS2 but in general. Casper Kuritz, our man in 3rd place, touted as one of the title favourites at the beginning of the season, is gone for the remainder of the season indeed. From what I've heard, he is planning on focusing on the Estonian National Championship, which will be held on iRacing, and having committed to that, he will not have as much time to compete in Formula Sprint 2, unfortunately, meaning that Orbit Motorsports now has lost one of, well, they have 2 really strong drivers, but one has already been lost, and one hasn't seemed really motivated the past 2 rounds, and it seems like his performance has dropped off as well. I'm sure Ben Skinner will get back on track. We all know the quality he possesses, but this might be a massive hit for Orbit. And it could be a massive boost for Fox Esports if Christian Glomsetter can keep his momentum from the first third of the season, and if Magnus Okenhag especially can pick up his results as well. Obviously Magnus Okenhag, a very talented driver as well, but in my personal opinion a fairly underwhelming first third of the season from him. But speaking of Fox Esports, their team owner James Knox has made a decision which is the second of our 2, I'd say, fairly major driver changes this season. Johannes Leppert has left HUD Performance Engineering, and James Knox has dropped down from Fusion Racing in Superlights down to HUD Performance Engineering to replace the Swedish driver, meaning James Knox, having gone up from Formula Sprint 2 in the end of last season up to Superlights, now drops back down from Superlights to Formula Sprint 2.
Yep, that's a really big news actually coming for HUD Performance, especially since they've been in Amir Hazik has done pretty well so far. But James Knox could well and truly be one of the best of the rest contenders and could give something for Ben Skinner and their front runners, a bit of a run for their money, and could excel into a last minute championship charge, not just for himself if the cards were to align right, but he is still very far behind, but also for HUD Performance Engineering to get some very good positions onto the board. As you said, Orbit Motorsports now without that strong driver pairing at the first third of the championship means that the door has been kind of opened a little bit wider than what we initially predicted at the start of the championship, and this could go any way, Lorenzo. I mean, we were talking about Fox Esports, but don't forget the meteoric rise of Eterovic-Funcic that we've seen prior to the conclusion of Montreal. They could continue to keep that rise up and maybe give something of a bit of a scare. But also McKenna has also done pretty well with their first sprint, and Lufnik and Savinsky could also still possess a challenge. And there's just so many teams, I think, that it's really hard to just determine to see who could emerge victorious.
Absolutely, indeed. You obviously mentioned McKenna as well. Filip Czerwinski missed the previous 2 rounds in Sepang and Montreal due to being on Erasmus over in Spain, but he's now back, meaning McKenna Racing should pick up some more points. Obviously, some of the substitutes that came in for the Polish driver did slightly less as good as the Polish driver, objectively speaking. But I think McKenna Racing, obviously they're currently 4th, I think they are, and Moldova are currently 3rd. But Dan Hayek, who's won 2 of the past 4 races, so he's got a 50% win from the previous 2 rounds. I do wonder whether he can carry that over into Imola as well, and if he can win yet another race here today as well. But as we're on board with James Knox currently, Fox Esports, obviously his own team, the ones gunning after Orbit Motorsports the most, himself currently on pole position by a fairly comfortable margin for now, 33.27 tenths in front of one of his own drivers in Magnus Hockenhaug. So it will be interesting to see how that pans out. Jonas Carola crosses the line, only good enough for P10 right now, but I think Jonas Carola will be improving, and by quite a lot as well.
We were talking about glow-ups. Camera Racing Team also had quite a good glow-up in Bassani and Davis. For now, at the first bit of qualifying, they both managed to penetrate into the top 10. What almost seemed to be a season of struggle has sort of turned into a bit of jubilation, though. Lukas Nikolakowski warm up the tires. He's going to start for his first flying lap. And here we go, looking at 2. I think we've got 2 Academy ones. Nova McKenna, who had made a previous appearance for McKenna Racing and Hunter Bird Simulation, makes her debut in the Academy car after multiple Academy appearances. Francesco Griminuzzi, he breaks up into 4th place with a fantastic first lap for the Italian. Very, very well done there for the homegrown driver.
Yeah, Francesco Grimaliti has been impressing in Academy before spring break, and he did have a one-off appearance with ST Racing in Montreal, bringing the English outfit their first points of the season so far. And seeing as he's currently a free agent, obviously being in the Academy team, Ben Skinner here in the Orbit Motorsports, if Samuel Slav, the owner of Orbit Motorsports, had any more good intentions left for his own team. Obviously, I've heard from him that he wants to move up to Formula Sprint 1 for next season, and I think that hasn't waned for the Bulgarian. I think Francesco Grimaliti, I could see him being in Orbit if things go certain ways, but that's for the future. The present is right now as Ben Skinner rounds the final Piratella corner. There's 2 of them there. Ben Skinner crosses the line, improves from P7 up to P4, just under 3 tenths behind James Knox.
Hayek and Youngstra, strong team pairing, 5th and 6th for them. Carola has gone up in a 2nd, but still, look at that gap. James Knox is still 2 tenths clear off of the driver in 2nd place, and it seems to be a very comfortable margin that the Englishman really seems to have in hand after his last FS2 race last year. Nikolakowski does set a representative lap time, but it will only be 10th, just enough to displace Chris Davis out of the top 10 position at the moment. And currently at the moment, it seems to be very interesting to see if Knox could get his first pole position this year for FS2.
Yeah, and one of the people who has been quite well recognised in the world of sim racing, but hasn't driven in GPVWC before this season, if memory serves correct. Chris Davies, a bit of a revelation for Camera Racing Team. Obviously, I think most people know him in the community for doing the 24 hours of Anna on his own. I think not just once, but twice. Currently P11 here in qualifying, but had a very good performance in Sepang, needing to miss Montreal on account of the fact that he was in Spa-Francorchamps in real life at the time. Doesn't improve yet, but I think as it stands, this would be the best qualifying result for Camera Racing Team, with Bassani currently in 9th and Chris Davis in 11th. However, having said that, as we're still currently on board with Chris Davis, I think now is a good time. Oh, never mind, as we switch on board to Nikola Latkowski. Purple in Sector 1 and green in Sector 2. He could break into the top 5 here, Amir.
Yeah, it could be, but I think his middle sector was just a little bit down 1.5 tenths off. But that good first sector, if a good final sector could be enough, it is a good final sector, but it is only good enough for second place though, and just shows that if it was a bit more of improvement into the middle sector, he could have well and truly displaced James Knox off from the top porch. But still, the Englishman will remain on pole at the moment, but very, very good attempt there from the North Macedonian.
Indeed, as Francesco Grimolizzi, obviously we mentioned him before in this qualifying session, moves back up into P5. So he was in P5 before, dropped back down slightly, and now he's back into the top 5 again. I mentioned that he was in Montreal getting the first points for ST Racing this season. He seems to be fairly comfortable in getting some more points here in Imola as well. And again, as I said, he's a free agent so far. I think it won't take long for any team to take a chance and take him on full time. In around maybe maybe a 1 to 2 rounds time, I could see him getting a full-time seat anywhere in the series, and I think it would be very well deserved.
You sound like Francesco's agent trying to convince teams to kind of buy him for the long run. But we'll see what James Knox has to respond to that. Let's see, about 2 tenths quick into the fast section. It is another improvement for James, and he's pushed it off away from Kodin Nagorkowski's time. It's now up to over a tenth that he holds on to pole position. He has still not been topped yet after his first lap.
He hasn't, and it increasingly looks like he won't be either. Obviously, Kodin got so close on his previous hot lap, but James Knox immediately increases the gap yet again on him. And a bit into the gravel there, but this is his in lap, I think, or well, with sector 1 times like that, I will assume so. Nova McKenna, we haven't seen much of her so far here in Imola, and goes up from P28 up into P23 and immediately falls down back to P24 as someone has jumped her, and not quite sure who exactly. But yeah, the gaps, one thing I've noticed right now looking at the gaps across the field is they appear to be bigger here at Imola than they were across the first 6 rounds of the season.
I mean, that could also be... Oh, gee, that's a bit of drift there from David Giunta, who's currently into P29. This is, of course, the first race that we've had, and I think we've said 2 weeks' time. So it was our first ever season break here at GPVWC. So, of course, it gives time to drivers to a bit relax and then come with a brand new, fresh mind and just... well, you're not often come with race-by-race fatigues, which granted is still a week, but regardless. And we kind of get to see how they're going to start revving up their engines and kind of prepare for another few races ahead. I think we have got until, I think it is Germany that our next sprint break, our next break is around the summer. The Swiss driver does manage to get something more representative to his skill set. He's up to 18th. He displaces his teammate Salagi of that position. Jonas Karla, meanwhile, 2 purple sectors. But a bit of a struggle into the 5 sector means that the best that he could do is P3. I think that was Ben Skinner get himself up at a 4th. Yeah, very good there from Karla. It's not quite close enough to displace second place driver of Lakowski. Craig Patterson follows his teammate, and not enough to break to the top 10, but still an improvement nonetheless from the Guernsey driver.
Yeah, and Craig Patterson did have a couple of difficult rounds leading into the spring break. Some brake trouble in Bahrain, collisions in Montreal, if I remember correctly, having not been there. But he seems to be back on track and back on his good side here. Currently P11 in qualifying with just about over 4 minutes left in qualifying. I think he'll qualify in the top 15. I don't see him being outside the top 15. But yeah, I think he can get some good points back home for this round.
I could definitely see that as well, but it determines how Luvnik, Davis, Roquai and Okanag, if they improve as well. And don't remember that they are really good qualifiers. I think Roquai broke into the top 10. Chris Davis, we have seen, up into the top 15. So Craig Patterson is not at all away from danger whatsoever. 3 minutes and 43 left onto the clock. Looking on with Christian Glomsetter now. He is the highest place of the Foxy Sports drivers. Again, Okanag, aforementioned, is over at 15th. Glomsetter has been extraordinarily strong this season thus far and really seems to be in contention for one of the best of the rest. That was Youngstra displacing Hayek for P8, but the Norwegian, is he going to be able to get himself back into the top 5? He is not able to do so. I think that was Cervinski that jumped Glomsetter through to the line, But yeah, the Fox Esports driver will have to go for again. Looking over to Lukowski now, who has already been yellow into the first sector, but not too much though. It's still only about 200s off. He's got the middle and the final sector left, Lorenzo.
He has indeed, and obviously Nikola Lukowski, one of the best performing drivers so far this season. There we go, green into sector 2, but that chicane looked like he took a lot of curb, and we'll be interested to see whether his lap is valid by the time he crosses the line. But back to what I wanted to say, Nikola Lukowski, one of the best performing drivers so far this season, not to get a win yet, and I think that might change today as we see Nikola Lukowski swing to the outside after the second Rivazza, meaning I think, yeah, 3/10 off in sector 3, meaning he's lining himself up for another hot lap, going wide to get more speed across the line. Fires youngster up, green in the first 2 sectors. You mentioned him jumping down high for P8 a minute or so ago. I think he might jump even further than Dan Hayek here.
I think you might be right. I've just raced Moldova drivers done in a new livery for Imola, which is a very nice black and gold. But can the Dutchman escape from his teammate Shadow? Could he get some high places up here? Yes, he can. He's up into P6. A very good lap there from Tice. And just not quite enough to overtake Ben Skinner from P5, but still really impressive nonetheless. The improvements that we've seen all around, Salagi, who's jumped up into P15, means that Magnus Aukenhag finds himself outside of the top 15, but he's green in the first 2 sectors. A good final sector means that he not only could be in the top 15, but even higher. We'll see what the Norwegian driver can do. 190 seconds left on the clock, and what the Feet Esports driver can do. Terrible final sector means that he will still remain in P16, Lorenzo.
It does, and is that... Oh, Nikola Lukowski. I'm assuming took too much curb on either the entry or exit of the chicane there, and having lost the rear, had to pull off a move that Meta from the Cars franchise will be proud of. But he's got exactly a minute left in qualifying. And if his stars aren't shot, I think he can now pulling into the pit lane. So this is the end of qualifying for Nikola Lukowski. He seems to have grabbed there, or it might have been the lockup that he suffered. But moving on from Nikola Lukowski there, Christian Glom sector purple in sector 1 and green in sector 2.
Ooh.
Currently P8, but the closest contender for Ben Skinner currently in the driver standings. And I think he won't be able to improve, unfortunately. Got stuck too long in the gravel there, out of the Grazini chicane, and I think he won't have time either for another hot lap, I think, or will be very tight.
I think it'll be really tight. He has to give it his absolute all. I think it's going to be coming right down to the very wire with about 10 seconds or so to spare. Glamsetter has been given a lifeline and will go again with 9 on the clock. Knox, Corrala, Skinner still out on track as the seconds start ticking down. There it is, 0 on the clock, and the checker flag has dropped. Carla has an absolute not really of a good lap for the Finnish driver, which means that the best that he can be is in P3, and Carla will call his qualifying up to quits. We'll see if Knox or Skinner could improve, but not quite sure about that. Not sure about that. Is that it?
Still see some people on track, and Philip Cheminsky, one of them. He's still only sector 1, and it's a purple sector 1 as well. So Philip Cheminsky currently in P7, needed to miss the previous 2 rounds, as I mentioned previously, which made him drop down a bit in the standings. But it looks to want to climb right back up, and I think he will do so as well. We'll be interested to see whether he can keep purple through the other 2 sectors as well.
Knox just set purple second sector of 31.73, so that's the tugger for him. Knox, I think, has called it quits into the pits though, but that's sort of the line, that's sort of the pace we expect for Savinsky to do. A 31.85 in the second sector. A strong final sector would be enough, but I think he's a bit too much into the gravel. It still could be enough for improvement though, but it will not be pole position, I believe, for Philip Savinsky at the end.
Now, it might be enough to break into the top 5 though. Even if he doesn't get pole position, Philip Cheminsky rounds the second Rivazza there, stays as far to the inside as he can, and stays in P7. So Philip Cheminsky indeed stays in P7, 6/10 off in sector 3. Very unfortunate for the Polish driver there. Mika Hakimi, surprisingly enough, in P20 only. Yellow in both of the first sectors, and I don't think he'll improve. He doesn't indeed. A full second down in sector 3. And I don't think anyone else is out there on track. Chris Davis and David Chunt are the only ones still on track, but I don't think they're on for any improvements.
No, I think I saw David Junt, but I think he has already crossed the line. So for that checkerfied drop, it means that James Knox, having had his first debut here in the 2026 Formula Sprint 2 season, means that he will take his first pole position, not only just for himself, but also for performance engineering this year as well. Tony Nicola Cossier will make it for another front row start added to his accolades in second, and Jonas Karla, the race winner for Pride 1 Esports, will be starting in P3. Francesco Grimlitzley holds GPVWC Academy's best ever qualifying result for P4, as he's the highest placed Italian on the grid. Ben Skinner follows on behind the championship leader, only managing best at 5th. Thijs Youngstra for Emerald Overdrive is in 6th, with Philip Savinsky for McKenna Racing is in 7th. Christian Glomsitter for Fox Esports is 8th, with Dan Hayek for Emerald Overdrive in 9th, and Ricardo Bassani for Camera Racing Team runs up for the top 10. His teammate in Chris Davis is in 11th, with James Rookquoit for Freccianera in 12th. Craig Patterson for Pride 1 Esports is in 13th, with Mitchell Luvnik in 14th. And David Yunt for Aquila Racing completes through the top 15. Magnus Ockenhug for Fox Esports is 16th, with Mark Salagi in 17th. Andrea Kinalia for Freccianera is 18th, with Leila Pertaglier for Hunter Birch is 19th. Follows through with Mika Kimi for Elk International in P20. Over to P21, we have Davide Zanini for Robert Motorsports in his debut, replacing Jonas Karla. He'll be starting P21st. Another McKenna follows through down in 22nd, with Eamon Asabir in 23rd. Mark Mateus Whitman for VMS Sunance Racing is 24th, with Jamie Klump from Maplesfield 25th. Hans-Gil Mebus for ST Racing is 26th, with Amir Hizdik down behind for Hot Performance in 27th. Mahalo Vicentievich is 28th, with Eric Brenner for HBS is 29th. Alex Stay from McManus Motorsports, I think, completes through our 30, and then we have, that's it. We've only missing 2 cars though for today. Without the penalties applied, that will be us for the qualifying here for Imola here at FS2. Great qualifying, I must say. Very, very great.
Very great and very entertaining. Very good comeback to the series. Hopefully the racing is as good as the qualifying was, and yeah, hopefully as little controversy as possible.
Yep. Did have confirmation from our race director. Thank you very much, Chris, for this information. The black and gold livery for, I think it was Emerald Overdrives, is a tribute to Kyle Busch. I think it's done in the, what is it called? I think it's the 83XI livery. It sounds, I'm trying to remember the sponsor, but I specifically know what livery scheme that they're paying the Rowdy tribute to, and it's a very faint tribute to, I think, one of the, it was unfortunate throughout the break that we did, unfortunately, saw the passing of Kyle Busch. So yeah, big massive condolences through to him, and also to NASCAR fans as well. I'm sure you, Lorenzo, you're also pretty familiar with NASCAR, I reckon. I think you mentioned you were on an NR 2003 race league.
Yeah, I do. Obviously, the loss of Kyle Busch was very, very big surprise to everyone in the community. But yeah, I mean, as sad as it was, there's nothing left that we can do other than move forward and be there for the family and support them in any way they would wish to. And yeah, I don't know, it is really a topic that people aren't really prepared for, and when it comes they're just stumped on what to say. But yeah, Kyle Busch, one of the greats in motorsports, unfortunately left us during the spring break and Emerald Overdrive. A very nice gesture to carry on his spirit through a devoted scheme for good old Rowdy.
It's a piece of the Candyman, and I was partially right. It's the 3 Chai livery. It was. I think he did that when he had his first debut for the Richard Childress Racing after his move to Joe Gibbs. That was his first season wearing the number 8. But yeah, it's not often very easy to kind of talk about this. But well, yeah, it's a real big shame. But with that consideration in mind, Autodromo Internazionale Enzo E. Dino Ferrari. Again, we haven't raced here since 2024, often known as one of Italian's greatest motorsport venues, and I think it's kind of special. I think it holds a place in really any pure motorsports fans' hearts, both for the good. One that comes to mind is the 2005-2006 duels between Schumacher and Alonso, and also quite similar to when we talk about Kyle Busch, also quite a little bit of those as well in its past. But there's something magical about Imola that can't be replicated on any other circuit, though, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it is something about Imola, obviously, with a track that has so much history through it, so much good, so much bad, obviously. 1994 immediately comes to mind when someone mentions Imola, but you mentioned the duels between Schumacher and Alonso in 2005 and 06 as well. Imola is a track that's gone through so many changes, obviously with the Gresini chicane and the chicanes at Villeneuve and Tamburello, and just in general it's a track that I think fairly well symbolises the evolution of motorsport, if that makes any sense. I think it encapsulates fairly well the general history and story of motorsport.
I get what you mean, because it's like no matter what so many things have been changed about Imola. Like it's not that it's unrecognizable, but it's really different than whenever it first came onto the motorsport scene. And for all the trials and tribulations of the ever-changing landscape of motorsports, it's still here, still in all its glory, still with all its history preserved. And it's and kind of going through Imola, learning through its history, I think it's a pretty good testament for why do you like motorsports so much. You kind of bring them in and say that's the reason why I like motorsports so much. Just for all the changes, it still remains the same challenges as it did when it first opened. As per usual, on a lighthearted note, I am looking through the webs. Oh my goodness me, they've got a shop. Wow, that's a nice shirt.
Well, I think while you check through the Imola web shop, I think one thing we didn't get to mention during qualifying is some of the driver changes that we're going to be having today. We mentioned some, but not all, and the grid penalties that are outstanding from the previous rounds. I think first order of business is the driver changes. Obviously, we mentioned Davide Zanini filling in for Kasper Kuritz over in Orbit Motorsports, and James Knox coming in full time for Hot Performance Engineering, obviously dropping in from Super Lights. There are some other changes on the grid, one of them being Jamie Klomp now at Mapes VO. Jamie Klomp, if I remember correctly, did a one-off appearance for McKenna Racing in Montreal, very close to getting points as he tries to drift through Ravazza 1 but ends up in the gravel. But yeah, the Dutch driver back out again in Formula Sprint 2, this time for Mapes VO, his second round in Formula Sprint 2, and yeah, wishing well to the Dutchman for this round. Francesco Grimalizzi, obviously mentioned him quite a lot in the qualifying session, did Montreal for SD Racing, again bringing that up, getting the first points of the season, now in the academy team. Mark Matthias Whitman did race in Montreal, if I remember correctly. No, it was Sepang where he raced for VMS Sun Edits, and got a good haul of points in race 1, unfortunately disconnected on the formation lap for race 2 and wasn't able to start. He is back again here in Imola for the same outfit, VMS Sun Edits, And unfortunately, the only VMS that is today, as David de Vrij seems to be missing, as well. Actually, I don't know whether Mark Matthias Houtman is filling in for Justin van der Smissen or David de Vrij. Point withstanding, he is the only VMS in this car here today. And Alex Day, the other sole representative here today for McManus Motorsports, incidentally, after coming in fairly late for Montreal and getting a surprise win in race 2 after being, I think, P2 it was, on the reverse grid starting order. Sadly has to miss Imola. I mentioned in the introduction for the stream that Le Mans, real life Le Mans, is this week as well. Accidentally en route to Le Mans, I think, as we speak, and unfortunately having to miss Formula Sprint to Imola because of that. But I think if you were going to Le Mans to watch that event, I think you wouldn't mind as much, or at least I wouldn't.
He's peaked, basically. He's peaked and he's not coming back to FS2, is what we're learning. I just learned Imola has a 3-star rating in environmental accreditation. I didn't know the FIA did this sort of stuff. Why? It's a, with all due respect, it's a motorsport venue. It's like trying to be, what's so sustainable a motorsport venue? I mean, it's sustainable anyways, isn't it? It's just literally, it's like a golf course. It's just trees and stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say you can see a lot of trees, but I can't think of anything else. I don't know. First time hearing of that. Oh right, I forgot. The outstanding grid penalties. Sorry to interrupt you there, Amir. Outstanding grid penalties. Let's see, who do we have here today? Of the people competing today, Mihajlovic and Tijaric will have a 12th place grid penalty. Mika Luving has a 12th place grid penalty. Andrea Canaglia has a 12th place grid penalty. Riccardo Bissani has a 12th place grid penalty, and I think that is all of the outstanding grid penalties. Let me just check. According to qualifying results, that drops Riccardo Bissani down to P22. Mihailo is dropping from P28 to P30, if I am correct. Alex Day has a 24 place grid penalty, so I think he stays in P30, and Mihajlovic and Tijaric actually drops only to P29. Andrea Canaglia, he finished qualifying in P18, so he drops to P28 on account of the penalties for Vicin Tijaric and Day. And Mika Luving finished qualifying in P14, and with the 12th place grid penalty drops to P26. So I think that is all of the outstanding penalties for this round, or at least for the drivers who have turned up here today. There's, well, nearly half a grid of outstanding penalties still unserved, but these ones will be served, so yeah, the list shortens ever so slightly.
Yay. Luving. Okay, to end my, what was it? There was like a quote that I was going to end my website search. If you inquire at the Autodromo website, it just says, "You cannot describe passion, you can only live it. E. Ferrari." I guess that means Edward Ferrari. Checker flag has dropped.
No, yeah.
James Knott still holds on to the fastest lap, about 8 thousandths from Savinsky. So even though he's got the fastest lap in qualifying and he's starting in the front row, it doesn't mean it's going to be completely smooth sailing for the Englishman. I think Savinsky, even though he's starting, I think he's starting 7th, he's shown that he's got the pace to well and truly be up in there for contention, as someone has completely lost their wheel and they're freewheeling back into the pits, I imagine. But Savinsky starts for his practice lap procedure as common courtesy. Oh, I just realized that's his teammate in Luving that just hit the wall. So bit of a ritual for good luck, I assume. I don't know. I think Nova proves it. But do you have any predictions, Lorenzo, before we head over to the 19 laps at Imola?
First time winner. That's the only thing I can think of. That would be interesting.
First time winner. We haven't seen that in quite a while. And by a while, we mean literally the last race. But what we can say is we thought we wouldn't see a first winner after Suzuka, but until then it was amazing. We've got 90 laps of a feature race. GPVWC is well and truly back. And what an exciting way to kick off the season back in full action with 19 laps here at Imola. Don't go anywhere. And we're back over as the drivers prepare to get themselves onto the grid. Lorenzo has got his predictions that there'll be a first-time winner, which will be very, very interesting. We'll have to see for the 19 laps of the feature race. James Knox and Koni Nikolakowski both have not won a race in FS2 this season. James Knox said it's going to be his debut. Koni Nikolakowski still yet to get his first one. He's come ever so agonizingly close. The one that definitely comes to mind has been Bahrain, and this could be a time they can finally get the accolade he has long so tried to earn that retrospect. But until then, we're now going to look over for the starting grid of the 30 cars here at San Marino. James Knox will be leading up into the front row for the first time in hot performance. Koni Nikolakowski from Israel in second. Jonas Carla is P3, with Francisco Grimolitzi holds on to his best qualified performance for himself and for the GPVWC Academy in fourth. Ben Skinner for Robert Motorsports is fifth, with Thijs Youngstra for Emerald Overdrive is sixth, with Philip Savinsky for McKenna in seventh, and Christian Glomstetter for Fox Esports is over at eighth. Through to row 5, it will be Dan Hayek for Emerald Overdrive, falls through with Chris Davis for Camera Racing Team in 10th. James Rockwine and Craig Parisic completes over through row 6 for Freccianera and Priority 1 respectively. P13 goes to David Junt for Killer Racing, with Magnus Ockenheim for Fox Esports in 14th. Salaigu will be just directly behind his teammate 15th, with Leila Pachaglia, the best of the, second best of the Tans in P16. Mika Kimi Falcon International is over at P17, falls with Davide Zignini for 18th for Robert Motorsports. It's Nova McKenna 19th for GPWC Academy. Ricardo Bassani suffers for a grip penalty and starting at P20. Eamon Asabir is 21st, who suffers through a penalty as well. I think Mark Mateus Whitman for VMS Alliance is 22nd. Jamie Klump 23rd, and Mitcha Luving is 24th. Hansko Mebus is 25th, and Mayer Hazik for our performance is 26th, with Drake Canal for Freccianera at 27th. Eric Brenner on to Burt Simulation is at 28th. Falls through to the final row. In row 15, it is Mihailo Vicentievich for ST Racing, and it is Alex Day from Mass Motorsports in P30. I got a bit of the names mixed up for the penalty, so big apologies to the viewers and to you, Lorenzo, and to you, Remco. I have dishonorably failed you.
Yeah, we're getting fired after this one, I'm sorry, mate. But yeah, I thought that Bassani was going to be 2 places lower down as well, but I'm not quite sure why he's P20. I thought it was going to be P22. Maybe I did my maths wrong. Oh, I always did struggle with maths, but never mind that. Oh, Francesco Grimolizzi misses a grid slot and nearly goes into the back of Nikola Latkovsky there. As Alex Day starts from the pit lane, so already a tiny bit of a drama at the start here. As there is also an empty grid slot in front of Mihailo Vicentievich.
That's interesting. We'll see how it comes. The light's going to come on though. The 3, the 4, the 5, 19 laps of Imola. The lights are off and we're underway here. James Knox with the start. He has to hold off through Latkovsky. Latkovsky has to falter from behind, but here he comes. Corolla manages to get a better start than North Macedonian as they're going to enter their way down into turn 1. Knox defending absolutely possibly can. Corolla will still hold on to that second place. And it's Latkovsky that just has to slot down from by P3. Skinner has got the jump against Francesco for P4. Skrimolitsi is in 5th. Savinsky's jumped Youngstra for 6th. And Glomcenter also manages to make the overtake pass over for Fox Esports. Thijs Youngstra gets a bit of attack from his teammate behind, but still it's going to be smooth sailing for Emerald Overdrive for now. At the first sector, a bit of a collision we see coming down from the back. Absolute calamity going there, Lorenzo. I can't really quite see the action, but I can see some cars dropping, I think.
Yeah, I think Grimolizzi had a very, very slow start, which allowed Ben Skinner to get past him fairly easily up into P4. Nikola Latkovsky had a fairly good start, but was stuck on the outside for the Cambrello chicane there. As we see yellow flags in sector 2, I think that's Mihalovic and Tjevic. Now it was Eric Brenner dropping one of the two, and we're not quite sure what happened, as we see Eric Brenner now a bit of a bigger gap to Mihalovic and Tjevic, and that's Jamie Klump I think behind him as well, and then quite a big gap between that's Andrek and Nalia, who dropped off massively, and Alex Day obviously in P30 having started from the pit lane. I think Mark Shilagi was the other person starting from the pit lane, or no, it was all three of them. So 3 people started from the pit lane, we're not quite sure why, but that's 3 people who...
Oh my word! And a big hit onto the curb. Alex Day managed to correct the car and put it into a straight line back over, but that could have ended really horribly for Day and could have ended his race prematurely, but he's so lucky that the car did not sustain any heavy damage, as there he goes, a little bit of a slip out through the final corner, but he will still prevail. That was very unlikely. I think that might be the second curb incident we've seen, but Francesco's dropping!
And Leila Petrelli seems to have dropped as well, but Francesco Grimolizzi, what happened exactly to the Italian? As we see, Jonas Carola off into the gravel there, which might allow Nicola Tkowski to pass him, and he does. Jonas Carola keeps dropping as well. He might have spun into Tossa, and Jonas Carola keeps dropping as well. Oh, he's off into the grass there.
Yeah, he's off up through to the first sector, and it's gone absolutely pandemonium for Francesco and for Jonas. For both of them that were starting into the top 5, and it's ended absolutely miserable for them as they're dropped down through the order, Lorenzo.
Yeah, what exactly happened to Jonas Carola and Francesco Grimolizzi? We saw Jonas Carola off into the gravel out of Villeneuve, but did he lose control, or was he tapped from someone close behind him? As we see Jonas Carola sliding off onto the gravel, and just loses control. Oh, Nicola Tkowski does very well to avoid him. But it looked like Jonas Carola just put too much power on to try and rejoin as fast as he can, which caused him to, unfortunately, lose more positions than he would have if he took it safely. As we look at what happened to Francesco Grimolizzi, that looked like a big squeeze on Christian Blomstetter actually from Francesco Grimolizzi, and it's a very tough place to rejoin, but he did fairly well to do it. And he's in front of the pit lane, and he's out, I think.
Is that Francesco retires? Is that our first retirement of the day? Oh boy, I think that might be a completely separate incident, and it is. Francesco claims our first retirement. Jamie Klump is in the pits already, so much chaos happening over. Ben Skinner guns off, and that's good luck for Tkowski to reclaim back B2. They momentarily lost from the Englishman, and meanwhile James Knox is absolutely relishing in this 3 seconds as a gap between Knox and Tkowski.
Yeah, Ben Skinner mentioned that his load cell has failed on him before this event, and that he had to change a lot of brake settings in his game, and I think it's taken a massive effect on him, as we saw there through Villeneuve, where he went wide onto the gravel, which allows Nicola Tkowski to get back past him fairly easily. But James Knox, 3-second gap inside 3 laps. I mean, there's been discussions beforehand on drivers dropping down before the season even started from one tier to the other. James Knox, as unfortunate as he was in Super Lights, to have been able to drop down to Formula Sprint 2, it seems like he hasn't lost any talent that allowed him to go up into Super Lights, and quite comfortable in P1 so far. But it's only lap 4 that he just started off of 19. I'm intrigued to see whether he keeps that P1 or whether Nicola Tkowski currently just biding his time and then waiting to strike late on like he did in Bahrain, if memory serves correctly. Oh, Ben Skinner gets past him fairly easily. Oh, server issues?
Yep, there he goes. No, that's a little bit of a latency, but that's fine. Skinner makes his way up into P2. We're kind of seeing a repeat of what we've seen in previous FS2 races, Lorenzo, because often at times 2nd, 3rd or 4th place will have these continuous battles and the lead will just grow ever so more bigger. The question I have is, in Skinner Tkowski's, do you think that there'll be a chance to recover to get back into the DRS range of Knox, or is that gap just too far away, do you think?
Well, if they work together, they can do it. Obviously, we mentioned Kyle Busch earlier, and as we were on board with Fires Youngstra because of the Kyle Busch livery tribute, there's a fairly big, norm in NASCAR where people work together to get draft and catch back up to the lead pack. If Nicola Tkowski and Ben Skinner can do that, and Philip Chowinski is not far from the Viva, I think the 3 of them can catch it back up to James Knox. but oval racing and road course racing are not the same, I can tell you that much. And it might not work as well as it would on something like Chicagoland or Michigan, just throwing two random examples out there. But I think James Knox won't have as big of a gap by the end of the race as Christian Glomsetter, trying to get past Dan Hike as quick as possible and as eagerly as possible here.
Yeah, he's doing his absolute best, and he's going to try and fend back. Glomsetter just isn't enough. That youngster will have hopefully enough of a gap to try and claw back up, but Glomsetter has the benefit of the DRS and the slipstream though, so that can make his job all the more easier. Heading into turn 1, I think he might be able to make the overtake before the corner, and indeed he will do so. The Norwegian will happily take that all day, probably one of the most easiest overtakes in Imola that you could muster, and Christian will happily take that P5. Now it's just a question of defending that from Hayek though, as we just see Eamon Asabir, who's momentarily in P15, has lost to McKenna and Louvre, I think. So the Alk international driver kind of a bit struggling here in his first home race.
Yeah, and Eamon Asabir, we didn't see much of him in the first 6 rounds. I think he got a couple of points finishes, I think Melbourne and actually no, Montreal, after the penalties were released, he lost the points. But he's very close to getting points here as well. He's not far from Mika Luvink in P16. I know McKenna isn't far either in P15, which would be enough for P1. If he managed to get points on home soil, I think that would be very beneficial for Eamon Asabir here, and could be, well, hopefully enough a turning point for the Italian driver.
Yes, go on, Eamon. I believe in you. That's the only time I'll ever show bias on this coverage.
Oh, yeah,
If I can second factor though. Yeah, I'm not sure who that is dropping, but we can see Lukowski is already right up into the rear wing of Ben Skinner. He's not at all going to be at all done with this. I think the gap has it closed up even more. It has. It's gone on to 5 seconds, the gap. Oh no, 4.5. So they've only managed to lose about 5/10 already. But Lukowski going to use the DRS and slipstream in hand to make the move. And it should be just an easy overtake into the straight. That's the effective way on really exchanging positions without losing none of the pace whatsoever. And indeed it will be. The Macedonian driver will get up into second place, Lorenzo.
He does indeed, and the entry into Tamburello there seems like the best, but then, well, the best spot to overtake on this track. We've not seen many other overtakes that came naturally or so far in these 6 laps, other than in Tamburello. Obviously we've seen overtakes entering Tossa, for example, but that was due to the fact that Jonas Carola wanted to gravel out of Villeneuve and then spun across the track, dropping down 17 places, I think that was. And that was Filip Czerwinski, I think, heavily rubber banding in the background.
Yep.
And he's dropping. Surely he hasn't,
Oh,
and he
wow.
has a disconnection for the Polish driver.
Oh my words, that's our 3rd retirement. Hansko also suffered for retirement, so we've got quite a number of replays to look through. Big thanks to Remco for all of his help thus far to keep in mind of this absolutely hectic race in race 1. This is with Savinsky, and that is just really a textbook disconnection, I'm afraid. I think it might be the 2nd time that Savinsky has suffered that this season. Hansko, this was earlier. I think this might have been the yellow flag that we were seeing into the 2nd sector. How bad was it? Oh, that's just a bit too heavy onto the gravel, and just finds himself facing the wrong way around. And also it's quite hard to rejoin with that uphilly bit, so unfortunately he decides to call it quits. And oh, this is with Kinalia. I think this is a bit earlier on, heading over through to the final few corners.
Whoa.
Did he get tagged from behind? He did get tagged from behind. I think that might have been, I'm not sure who that was.
more
Oh, I
contact.
realized when he, yeah, I saw there was more contact. As soon as he left, he kind of got pushed away. That was laggy at the end. So, yeah, not quite close enough. Just kind of saw and just couldn't quite move out the way. He was out of the racing surface and then gets himself tagged in by, I think that might have been Hansko as well. Just out of the, he went wide as well. So I think that was a bit of a surprise there for Mark. But last, the race will continue on. Lap 7.92. That was all the action that we have kind of missed. Thanks to Remco for capturing all of that. But now we're back over to live screening, and we're now looking at the Killer Racing driver who's trying his best to climb up to P25. Ludovic, meanwhile, he's in P14 and trying his best to overtake McKenna. McKenna's done very well so far, considering where she started. She's been relatively. She's always been relatively safe in these times, and that excels in her progression up for the order. Davide Zanini, meanwhile, the Italian driver, is also on course to get his first points in FS2 as well.
Yeah, Davide Zanini obviously had running last season with my own team in Formula Sprint 1. Sadly only managed to do a third of the season before calling it quits, and then did a one-off this season in Formula Sprint 1 yet again in Bahrain, but now drove back down to Formula Sprint 2 and is doing well so far on home soil, as we see yet more lag in the server, which isn't good to see. But Davide Zanini currently in P15, 1 point is better than 0, and Orbit does currently get that 1 extra point with Zanini in 15th. And he's not far from Luving and McKenna, meaning he can get up and gain even more, and seeing as it's only lap 8, I think he can catch up and potentially challenge the top 10 as well.
I think the thing to keep in mind is Jonas has been on a charge ever since that he had his incident in the first sector. He's currently in P19 now. Layla Ayman are 17th and 16th, so we could see the Priority 1 esports driver make his way and maybe break into the top 15. So Zanini maybe needs to reach something higher than P15. Maybe it will not be enough. He maybe needs to reach 14th or 13th to get that extra sense of security. As we see Layla a little bit sideways on the exit into the second sector, could allow her to be well in problems there for Jonas to get that position and use it well. My goodness me, absolute heftiness onto the curb there, but Layla goes a little bit wide on exit though, so allows Jonas to still have the opening. He'll have the final few corners left to go. He's going to look over to the outside line. It's going to be absolutely risky there for the Finnish driver, but almost outbreaks it. It's going to be absolutely crucial if he makes this move, and I think he almost just about does it. He does it. Wow, what a great move there by Jonas.
Absolutely stunning move from Carol, but is not safe just yet. Lela Petralia still in the draft and still has DRS. Well, no, actually Carola is the one that has DRS. He was the one behind in the detection zone, but Petralia tries a move nevertheless. Doesn't make it stick, has to pull out, and Jonas Carola, after that lovely move through Ravazza, managed to keep P17 through Tamburello as well. And I think he'll be able to peel away from Petralia now fairly easily. Oh, as Petralia goes into the gravel and doesn't make the same mistake as the man in front of her did at the earlier stage of the race, and managed to keep it on the tarmac and doesn't lose that much time to Carola and doesn't lose that much time to Hazik. So yeah, Lela Petralia, the elephant in the room, obviously. The start of the season not the best for her, quite a lot of complaints and critics towards her, but she seems to be improving round by round, and she seems to be ever so closer to consistently challenge for points, so nice to see, but not quite there yet for the Italian.
For how this race is gone, I think just keeping nose clean will be all the warranty that she'll need to get another points finish added to her season, but gone a little bit wide out for the chicane means that Amir Hazik can almost see maybe P18 in his hands, but we'll see with how it goes for, oh goodness me, a bit wide, and the Malaysian finds an opportunity, almost had a look for it, but Layla defends pretty brilliantly, but that will mean that actually none of them will have the DRS because Amir Hazik was a bit too far off, but a move that the Malaysian will make, he will make anyways, and side by side makes the move, and Hot Performance finds but the driver himself will be in P18. Jonas Carla attempts to make the overtake on Eamon Asapir, I think does cement it, and that will be the Finnish driver on P16. Layla down to P19, Amir Hazik in P18. Already action that we've seen here in the lower midfield, Lorenzo.
A lot of action indeed, and one thing we missed, and that you mentioned as well, David Zanini needed to move up to get more points for Orbit than he currently is getting. He's moved up to P14, so he's overtaken Nova McKenna, which means that Nova McKenna is the next driver for Jonas Carroll to get past, and Zanini now 2.5 seconds behind Mika Luving, and still not out of danger from Nova McKenna. So I think David Zanini, unless something catastrophic happens in front, will be challenging McKenna and Carola for P14 for the rest of the race, as moving 10 or so positions up. Nikola Latkovsky is leading a three-man train here with himself in front and then Ben Skinner and Christian Glomsetter right there. So Christian Glomsetter, even after Filip Czerwinski disconnected, has managed to catch up to the top two here in Skinner and Latkovsky. And that's purely on pace, so not to be outdone by his team owner who's leading by 7 seconds. And as we saw Ben Skinner there overtake Nikola Latkovsky, Christian Glomsetter is hungry for a podium as well here.
Longshot just saw overtake Hayek because seat positions all the way jostling around, and it's not at all going to be done yet. Glomsetter again, very, very good to have joined within this pack and could be in contention for a podium. There's trains that are filming all around in Imola. I've just realized Youngster and Hayek have theirs, Rockway, Davis, and Kimi have theirs, Patterson, Ockenhag, and Junt have theirs, and Luvink and Zanini have theirs. Luvink and is on his own. Zanini and McKenna and Carla are starting to have their own. So it's trains galore here in Imola, Lorenzo. But it's tension to this one here between Rockway, Davis and Takimi. Rockway's done very good in FS2 thus far and could be getting more points for the Freccianera team in their home soil. Davis currently into 8th as well, so he could be in for, again, another good point haul for Camara. Camara's been extraordinarily strong so far just before the spring break, and Davis being in 8th continues to show their strength in the Japanese racing team. Up for a head, that's Glomsetter now, who's applying all the pressure he can to Latkovsky. This is going to be in a battle for P3. DRSs are going to be available to the both of them. Now it's just going to matter of who can be battling for Ben Skinner's slipstream. Is going to be all the more valuable. It's Latkovsky that will have that, and Glomsetter is going to try his best to make a move. A bit of a yellow flag, but we're still fine. Latkovsky with that slipstream of Skinner means that he still holds on to P3 for the time being, Lorenzo.
It does. But I think that those positions are going to be changing quite a lot between the three of them for the remainder of the race. It's got Nikola Latkovsky right behind Ben Skinner, but I don't think he'll be able to make a move into Tosser, and Christian Glomsetter thought himself was something into Tosser, but thought better of it in the end. Although Glomsetter now close to Latkovsky than Latkovsky is to Skinner, and I think, Glomsetter thought of something, but wasn't close enough. Although it's still quite close between Glomsetter and Latkovsky. Depending on their run here through Aqua Minerale, there might be a move from Glomsetter into Grassini, and I think there might be something. Oh no, too far behind Glomsetter is. As the
He's just trying to. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Is that Mark Matthias Wittmann down at P24? I think that might be it. But Glomsetter has been doing really well to apply the pressure onto Latkovsky, and he can well truly be rewarded here through to the final 2 corners ahead. Latkovsky still places his car very, very well defensively to hold on to P3 for any chance necessary. Off through to the home stretch now as they start for lap 13 out of 19. Both of them with the DRS in hand. The problem is Latkovsky's far too behind to Ben Skinner to allow for the slipstream to be available. That was super, super close. Glomsetter had to lift off on the accelerator just ever so slightly to avoid carnage. And the Norwegian almost thought he had P3 in, was denied by Latkovsky there.
Yeah, it all looked fine to me. It was just a matter of Glomsetter having so much more speed than Latkovsky that looked a bit worse than it really was, as Latkovsky clips the gravel out of wheel there, which allows Glomsetter to get ever so closer, but not close enough still. As Alex Day in trouble without a front wing, and looked out like it was smoke. But I think
suspension.
Yeah, he's crabbing badly.
Hefty impact. I've just also realized Czerwinski, from the disconnection that he's had, he's back up running a lap down, so very impressive for the Polish driver to keep on going. So this is for the first sector. Is this going to be heading into Villeneuve that he's had an incident? It could be the second time that we have seen it thus far, and oh my goodness me, that is a big slip. He doesn't actually hit the wall though, so he must have listed like, no, he's fine.
What are we doing? We are being unsafe.
Why is he reversing? No, don't reverse. Don't reverse. What's he doing? Is he Vader?
That explains the suspension damage, which I don't know whether that was necessary for him to rejoin the way he did, but he was very lucky to have not hit anyone, and then from hitting the wall, rear suspension damage, loses the rear rate again.
No, he's
Still
fine.
managed to keep it, but
How did he lose the ring?
was there something out of vacuum in a rally? Yes, there
Oh,
was.
this must have been it then.
That's more
No,
suspension
it's
damage.
not.
That doesn't explain how
He's
he's
still-
lost his front wing.
He still kept his front wing, so but his rear suspension's already like knackered at this point. So it
so
must be heading into the chicane,
just
right?
gives
He
up?
can't even keep it straight. No, he just can't keep it straight, I think, at that point. And does lose it in that sense, and oh boy, that was quite sad to look at today. Another retirement added to our books, but the race still continues on. 5 laps left to go, Lorenzo. And still all to play for here for second place between Skinner, Lukowski, and Glomsetter.
Yeah, and Glomsetter, Latkowski, Skinner, they haven't changed positions in quite a while, which is the opposite of what I expected, as Glomsetter through Grassini there looks more closer to Latkowski than ever. He thought of a move into Rivazza 2 laps ago, I think it was. I think he'll be closer this time as well. Goes on the inside this time, but still not close enough. Latkowski takes a normal racing line there, no impact, nothing wrong. But there could be something here into Tamburello, because Glomsetter is going to have superior draft here compared to Latkowski, as well as DRS, both of them will. And pull alongside here. Glomsetter on the outside. He might have to pull out as he's on the outside. No, he keeps it side by side on the inside there, but Latkowski still edges him out in front, and Latkowski still keeps P3 for the time being. Lovely little duel there between the two of them, but Latkowski, very good defense there from him.
Yeah, and that's
Oh, Latkowski in the gravel as well!
He disappointed and he got into the gravel. Glomsetter has gone into P2. I was going to say this was the best thing that could have happened to Ben Skinner, but as soon as I was going to say it, Ben Skinner unfortunately goes off track. He does manage to rejoin on it, but Lukowski ends up absolutely the worst of it, having to avoid Ben Skinner.
Oh, break for the Macedonian there, and he can't do anything there really, as we're on board for some reason. There we go. Good Nikola Latkowski on board with him now. As we see his POE, what happened? Yeah, it's happened to so many other drivers. Skinner too eager to rejoin after going on the gravel, and it happened right in front of Latkowski. He hit the wall as well, so there should be some suspension damage as well for him. And dropping from a potential P2 down to P5, it's going to be a bit tougher for him now to climb back up with the suspension damage and with even less time. But I don't think he'll lose any position. I think he can only gain them, but
Too much on the gravel, yeah, and
No.
you try to accelerate and try to
would
make
like
the best
to-
out of it.
sorry to cut you off there, Amir. I would like to take another
That's okay.
look at that from Ben Skinner's POV as well, but mostly to look at his pedal inputs, because I don't think he was on the brakes the entire time there, which might have affected his trajectory. Yeah, fully on the gas, no pedal input, throttle, no pedal input, and only then brakes after he spins nearly in the middle of the tarmac. I think had Ben Skinner had some better pedal control there, some more brake input, I think the trajectory would have changed and Latkowski wouldn't have been as affected as he was. But I think that is for the disciplinary committee to decide and not for us to. But yeah, all of that has allowed James Knox to make an 11-second gap with, what is it, 4 laps to go, coming to 3 laps to go. I mentioned before that there was discussions before the season even started about drivers dropping tiers and all of that. James Knox, obviously, very unfortunate first 6 rounds in Superlights for him, and having scored no points, he was allowed by the ownership to drop down to Formula Sprint 2, but with an 11-second gap, I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, I think we all know what we're wondering here. I think leaving the blank just as is enough of a clue, but it is a very admirable performance nevertheless, as from Knox onto Fox, his own team, Magnus Hockenhaug has improved. I think he's gained 5 or 6 positions here and looking to gain 7 now, as he pulls alongside Mika Hakimi and overtakes him fairly easily for P9. pulls in front of him as well to prevent any potential counter-attack, and Magnus Hockenhaug up into P9. I think so far this is the best race one of the season, although I could be wrong.
Good one from Magnus. That was a really clean overtake. Yes, you're right. It has been his best race one. I think always been outside of the top 10 in race one, so this has been his highest performance. So you are indeed right. Look at how much positions he's gained as well. Gained quite a hefty amount. Not as much as Luving, though. Still holds 12, which is hugely massive even for a race one. So we could see if that sort of improvement comes over to the second race. But yeah, absolutely chaos going over, and the chaos has not ended there, as Leila Petraglia, I think that has dropped over. She's down to P21. I think that might have been what the yellow flag was for, but I'm not quite sure about that. And it is. She's just briefly off on the grass, but does rejoin just in P21. Bit of a replay just to have seen what has happened. Again, chaos all around. But we've done our absolute best to keep up for the action. I think it's just what we have seen through Villeneuve before. Yeah, it is. It's been like that. It's quite interesting that we've seen so many different kinds of spins in that specific corner, and it does go to show just the challenges that it has. Of course, even with someone as skilled as Ben Skinner, who may I remind you is the championship leader, can like make a mistake than that, then really anyone is a bit susceptible to that. But the important thing with that Skinner incident, though, is that this has kind of given Glomsetter the chance that he needs for the championship. He's currently 20 points adrift, and this is going to help his points up just ever so slightly and bridge that gap down a little bit more. But with Lukowski, he has dropped quite significantly. He was really the worst affected from that, just briefly behind Youngstra and Hayek, but now has got past Youngstra, so he'll be up at a P4. But Emerald Overdrive, I think, are going to continue their best team's performance still. They're 5th and 6th, and I don't see any other team that has done as good as them so far. Maybe Glomsetter or Hockenhaug, but that's a very big if. But yeah, the American Alpha has still been utterly phenomenal since the Pang on them.
They have, and as you mentioned, they don't seem to be stopping anytime soon. Currently P6 and P5 for Hayek and Youngstra respectively, and while not the highs of the winners that Hayek got in both Sepang and Montreal, this is still a very good position for them to be in, and a very good points haul. And I think with Chawinski a lap down due to the disconnect and Luke only down in P12, this could push them. Actually, no, sorry, they were already P3, although with them P5 and P6 and Blomstedt in P2, Hockenhaug in P9, looking to move that up into P8 on Chris Davis, and maybe does so. No, Chris Davis is still there, and Chris Davis defends very well from the Norwegian there. Very good driving by Chris Davis, and this is the last lap actually, I've just realised. So this is Hockenhaug's last chance to get past Chris Davis and get up into P8. So moving on from what I initially want to say, Magnus Hockenhaug now chasing P8 and Chris Davis. Oh, Chris Davis wide out of Tossa there. And it almost allowed Hockenhaug to pull alongside, but not quite. And Mika Hakimi still has a say in all of this as well, as he's very close to Hockenhaug. But moving on, I think, from Hockenhaug and the trio here, I think James Knox, there we go, exiting Gravazza 2 with Jamie Klump behind him, and James Knox, after so long in GPVWC in general, coming back into FS2 after starting season Superlights, gets his first ever Formula Sprint 2 win, and I think he'll be elated with himself, although some people might feel less elated. Christian Glomsetter joins as team owner on the podium in P2. Ben Skinner crosses the line in P3. There we see Nikola Tkowski and the two Emerald Overdrives. I want to turn our attention to Hockenhaug as he's gotten past Chris Davies. Oh, it's a drag race to the line, and we just missed it, but Chris Davies loses out on P8 to Magnus Hockenhaug. Heartbreak for the Englishman there, but a good race from him nevertheless, as Mika Hakimi was very close as well.
Yep, I think we've missed quite a thrilling last lap replay. Magnus out for the final corner. You can see Ricardo just utilising as quickly as he can. And if the line was just ever so more to the start-finish one, it could have been Bassani's if he had more time to utilise the slipstream. But sorry, Davis to utilise the slipstream. My apologies. But yeah, that was so close, right down almost through to the line. He's just axles with axle, and just the finish line came a bit early for Davis to really capitalise and maybe get P8 at the end. But that really concludes what was Ogden's titanic route up through the field. But alas, it is James Knox who, upon his FS2 return, I don't think he has won last season, but on his first try in his new team in Hut performance, means that he will bag not only his, but the team's first race win of the year.
Indeed, and I think this is the first race win in quite a long while, because I remember Bobby Vaquinov when he was still in Hut performance, he got a win I think in 2024, but I don't remember about 2025. Nevertheless, James Knox, first time winner, and I was right, with Hut Performance Engineering. Christian Glomsetter, as I said, joins his team boss in P2 on the podium. Ben Skinner, currently P3, but the disciplinary committee I'm sure will look at what happened to himself and Latkovsky, who is in P4. Youngtren Hayek, the two Emerald drivers in 5th and 6th. James Rockwire, very impressive but quiet, P7. Magnus Ockenhaug beats Chris Davis to P8 in a drag race, and Mika Hakimi was also there in P10, just observing them, unfortunately not able to compete with them. Craig Patterson, P11, very close to the top 10, but alas, not a top 10 in the end. Mika Luving, I think the biggest gainer from qualifying, up into P12, good points from McKenna. David Hunt in P13, Yunus Karola did well to recover up to P14 after his escapade into Villeneuve. Davide Zanini gets one singular point for Orbit Motorsports on his former Sprint 2 debut, I think that is. Riccardo Bissani, after a grid penalty and starting in P20, does well to fight back to P16, but unfortunately just outside the points. Nova McKenna in P17, Ayman Asabi in P18, Amir Hazik in P19, and Andrea Kinnalia after his tangle with Mark Silagi down in P20. And I think it is Leila Petrali in P21, Eric Brennan in P22, so the two Hunter Birches in 21st and 22nd. Mark Silagi behind him in P23, Mark Matthias Wood in P24, Mihalovic and Tiavic in P25, and then all lapped cars in Jamie Klomp in P26, and Philip Chawinski, who was 2 laps down due to a disconnection, in P27, heartbreaking for the Polish man, as he was battling for the podium with Skinner and Latkovsky in the early stages of the race. And then our 3 DNFs, Alex Day, who had a bit of a Mater from Cars impression, Hansko Mebius, who had a spin into, what was it again, it was Piratella, and then just gave up unfortunately, and Francesco Grimalizzi, who had quite a lot of damage if I remember correctly, due to a tangle with Magnus Ockenhaug that, again, to me looked like his fault due to a lack of space given, but that's why the disciplinary committee exists.
What a race, and we still have another race left to go. A great way to bring FS2 back to the sacred grounds of San Marino, but we've still got a 13-lap sprint race left to go. We will come back with more information, and we'll determine who will be the pole sitter for the reverse grid. But until then, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a short moments after this very quick break. All the best.
Inside a place of... On the next section... Kelty seat, the coffee beanery, Tyrek.
Flat out. Oh no! Oh no! Who's round? It's Magnussen. Oh, it's going to be a touch moment. It's in the barrier. Oh, they spun. Oh, this is some carnage.
And Menocon's gonna win.
God.
It's a double pass. Could they take each other off? They don't. And flag slide. It's a victory for the Tuties. They touch. They're now. Oh no!
Soriano's gone around and met the wall. Mitchell will go through. Does it go uphill into turn 4? Oh, and round the outside. What a fabulous move.
Frelick will use all of his as well. Here he comes. He makes a move. They touch. They run wide. And Munio's going to get it. We're going 3-wide. Look at
Sing.
contact. Oh, my goodness. Tyne has lost a wheel.
Time's out.
The dramatic race that we were teeing up the entire time has come to an end.
We have major news. After, I think, what's been 40 odd rounds, the curse for P11 being on reverse grid pole is broken. Yes, people, you've heard that right. For the first time since Singapore 2023, someone who finished P11 in race 1 will be on reverse grid pole, meaning Craig Patterson is our reverse grid pole sitter, which is, I mean, I just mentioned that it's been since Singapore 2023, I think it was the first time P11 has been a reverse grid pole. Amir, I mean, this is historical. Yeah, there we go. Alex Falls just told us. Only took 36 times of trying.
Viewers, turn your headphones down, please.
Yes! Yes! Well done! We took 46 races until we get to this point. Well done, GPVWC community. Well done.
Sorry about that.
It's
But
not-
yeah, Alex Falls took so long. We were talking about like how it was a mystery, a bloody mythical being that we were never going to see P11 on pole ever again. But on God's green earth at Imola, our return to Imola since 2024, we have finally got that accolade now back over in action, and it's priority 1 that will happily take the accolade. It'll be priority 1-1 with Craig Patterson starting on pole position. Wow, I mean, I can't believe it. Apologies again for the loudness, but I am so excited. I think if you heard the commentary box whenever we saw that P11 was announced for reverse grid pole, we were all losing our minds. I was gonna swear, we were losing our goddamn minds, and we have never been this happy. This is the happiest moment in my FS2 commentary career. Nothing will ever top this. I can now die happy.
I personally wouldn't go that far, but it is nice to finally see that gone as well. But yeah, that means Craig Patterson up into P1, and then, well, the rest of the top 10 is just reverse really. And I think who's in the middle? It's P6 who just stays in P6, and that would be Dan Hayek, who is the man who just doesn't move anywhere and just stays where he was.
This is going to be a fun race, isn't it, Lorenzo? I'm very excited for this. Craig Patterson has been, I think, pretty strong. I think he has sort of stayed where he is, but I think for the improvements that we have seen from him in recent times, I think he could well and truly capitalize into maybe something of a podium. And given how we see how James Knox has kind of conducted the field, we could see something similar from him. But then we've also got, you know, the people from behind, from like Hakimi, Oggenhag, and Davis, for our fought that they did throughout the field. We can maybe expect to see that for P2, P3, P4, or even P1. I mean, you know, the sky's the limit really for these top four. And then you can also think further down behind. Knox has been good, yes, but it's going to be another different skill for the Englishman to have to work his way up through the field. And could he do it as well as the other great through the field drives that we have seen in recent FS2 memory is something that we really have to truly find out for ourselves. But yeah, I'm really, really excited.
I'm excited as well. You know, you mentioned that James Knox obviously conducted race 1 fairly easily, and I know I mentioned in race 1 as well, mostly because, you know, I want to see some drama. I'm fairly bored. I want to spice up us going back after spring break, and yeah, James Knox just collateral there. I mentioned him, you know, dropping down from SL2, winning the race fairly easily, but it wasn't just skill. There was some luck in there with Aaron Latkovsky's incident and the battle they had earlier on between them, which allowed James Knox to peel away as well. I think James Knox will definitely challenge the top 5, and especially with it only being up to P11 before reverse grid. He'll have an easier time doing that, but I don't know, I think there will be a different winner in race 2.
We're just midway through round 7 out of 16. We've I'm surprised you think there will be 2 different race winners. I do agree with you, but yeah, I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen here for what we have seen. Very exciting 19 laps of a feature, 15 laps of a sprint has often produced a lot more hecticness and chaoticness than the feature one, but Imola could really bring into something quite spectacular with all the challenges that it has brought, and we've seen the drivers navigate through it all in 19 laps. Again, something magical in reverse grid races that just, I think, kind of ups the ante a bit, but also can bring us some really, really magnificent battles. As the cars get to line up for the field, we've got 30 cars for 19, 30 cars again for 15. We await for the cars to line up on the grid for the second time around in Imola. And the cars are just getting to line up through the field. I think we can do a quick reminder for our calendar while we have the opportunity, since we're back from our sprint break. If we can just roll up the graphic just very swiftly as we've got the time. San Marino is what we're having here the 9th of June. Then we're following over through to Silverstone, which we're expected to be a little bit of a tribute livery. We'll see as that race day comes on. Spa-Francorchamps will hold through to the next round for the halfway stage, then over to the Hungaroring on the 21st, and then it's the German Grand Prix, the 4th at the Hockenheimring, then it's to the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. But you can see that between Germany and Italy, we have a bit of a late summer break at that point, another 2 weeks break in GPVWC. Then through to the United States, then over to Singapore, then over to Abu Dhabi, before we go for our thrilling conclusion back over at Interlagos The last time that we've had it as a finale was back in 2024 as well. So we've seen a lot of returnees here through to the calendar. But with that in mind, we have a look over through to the starting grid for San Marino as we approach for 15 laps of the sprint race. Craig Patterson holds on to the magical number of P11, something we have not seen in 46 races. It will be P1 for priority 1. Mika Kimi Falk International, it's his second front row start in second, with Chris Davis in third, Magnus Ockenhag third and fourth respectively for those two. Before going over through, we have James Roquai in fifth with Dan Hayek in sixth. His teammate Thijs Youngstra is followed behind with Conny Nikolakowski, who completes over for row 4. Down to row 5, we have Ben Skidder in 9th with Christian Glomset, the championship protagonists, both 9th and 10th respectively. They'll follow through with James Knox, the race winner for Hot Performance, with Mitchell Lufink following through behind in 12th. Giant for Killer Racing is 13th with Jonas Carlo, very good recovery himself as he was starting in P14 for priority 1. Davide Zanini for Motorsports is in P15 with Riccardo Bassani for Camera Racing Team is over at 16th. Nova McKenna in 17th with Eamon Asabir in 18th with Amir Hazik for Hot Performance is 19th with the Freccianera of Andrea Quinaglia in P20 for the Italian. Another Italian, Nela Petranglia, is 21st with Eric Brennan, makes it all Hunter Birch Simulation row 11. Mark Zalagi is 23rd with Mark Mateus Witzman, 23rd and 24th for them both respectively. Mihailo Vincentievich is 25th with Jamie Confer is 26th. Philip Savinsky with the disconnect did rejoin, but he'll be starting P27 this time around. Hans Gomibus, having retired, is going to be starting at P28. The other retirements being in P29 and P30. I think that was gone to... Is that it? Yeah, it is. That is it. That is it. That's 28 cars now. So we're missing 2 more cars on the field. So that's a bit of a surprise. We'll maybe have a look through. We'll look for down for that. Alex Day. We're missing Alex Day. That's one thing that comes to mind.
Mark Matthias Wittmann. Did we go through him?
No, we're missing Francesco as well.
Francesco,
so we're missing Day and Francesco. And so that's the 2 unfortunate people that we missed. Craig Patterson just taking ever so just a gentle tap up through to the order as he lines himself up proper. He has to defend himself from Hakimi, and Hakimi has to find with Davis and Glomset Oakenhag behind. Very interesting race. Nobody can really tell for certain who could potentially win this one, but we've got 15 laps here at Imola as we wait for the 5 lights to be off. They're off now, and we're away for race number 2. Craig Patterson, a very decent start, and Mika Hakimi will slot down right behind him at the time being. You can just see that Davis and Oakenhag going a little bit side by side into turn 1, but Hakimi is going to take his chances, going to swing his way for the outside through Tamburello, and there's a little bit of a tank there. Craig Patterson goes a little bit sideways, but he still keeps his car holding straight. It is Hakimi that will lead through. Chris Davis trying his best to not lose Mika Hakimi. Is going to try to make the overtake onto Patterson, and he does do so. And look at this, Dan Hayek also going to try and make the move. Oakenhag has dropped down 2 places. Hayek and Youngstra both 4th and 5th respectively, but the Emerald Overdrive might be battling amongst themselves through the hairpin, and Dan Hayek seems to be a little bit in a bit of a situation here as Youngstra and Hayek will still go on. That is one of the Orbit Motorsports drivers that has gone off, but look at Youngstra, Hayek still battling, and it's Youngstra that will take 4th out from Hayek. But look at all this intense racing going on. You can see between Lakowski and Skinner as they're continuing to go side by side for the second set. It's Lakowski that will get the better of Skinner at the time being through to P9, and you can see that James Knox, he still remains in 11th, so he has not made up any positions at the moment, but still a chance for him to make one maybe. But as it seems to go, oh my goodness me, that's someone gone off
Nova
from the
McKenna.
background. Yeah, it is Nova McKenna, and don't think she's lost too many positions. She's rejoined in P17, but might be continuing to drop. But Mika Hakimi is the one that leads. Chris Davis has gotten 2nd place. Craig Patterson 3rd. Youngstra 4th. Hayek 5th. Intense battle already in the first lap, Lorenzo.
Indeed, very, very intense. And I do wonder what happened to Magnus Oakenhag. It is something that we have to come back at a later point in time, as Craig Patterson currently pulls alongside here with Chris Davis. Chris Davis having the inside line on entry into Tamburello and defends fairly well, but does go a bit wider, which allows Craig Patterson to still be there. He might make something into Villeneuve. Tries and pull alongside on the outside yet again. Not close enough. Chris Davis for the time being keeps P2, but Craig Patterson is still threatening him. Although look at the gap behind Patterson as Ben Skinner is dropping down, and Ben Skinner is dropping down massively.
Oh my word, he's dropped all the way down to... He's retired.
He's out.
I think that's retired. He's retired. The championship leader is out. And this has blown it wide open for Glomsetter, who can well and truly get that momentum swifting into the Norwegians' favor. This is for the championship lead, remind you. And Glomsetter has already outscored Ben Skinner in race 1. So we'll see the replay to see what has happened. This is with Lakowski ahead and James Knox behind. Is there something? Oh, God. Oh, dear. And Knox tagged Skinner from behind. Ooh, and without that wheel, he cannot return to the pits whatsoever, and that poses a shut place for Skinner as I think that's his first retirement this season.
I think you might very well be right. It is his first retirement of the season, and it's just unfortunate the way it happened. He didn't finish outside of the top 10 for the entirety of the season, and then, I mean, very unfortunately enough there, and as you said, was it wide open for Christian Glomsetter here. I think lowered the gap by, what was it, 4 points, so now it's 16 points. So if Christian Glomsetter finishes second or above in this race, he will overtake Ben Skinner without penalties even in the championship standings and become our race leader. And it seems like Magnus Okenhag has realized that as well, because I don't think he gave much trouble to Christian Glomsetter there to pass him, and I mean he will have definitely more trouble trying to pass the Emerald Overdrive duo in front of him.
Team warfare we can see ahead. Glomsetter and Okenhag versus Hayek and Youngster. This is going to be a pretty impressive battle of team games here. We've seen that Emerald Overdrive have capitalized the use of it in the past, both in Montreal and in Sepang. Which both made en route to Hayek's race wins respectively, and this could well and truly be championship altering if they could just hold back Glomsetter enough. But of course Glomsetter and Okenhag are also in a pair, so this could be very exciting. And you can see up ahead you've got Craig Paris and Chris Davis doing all they possibly can to try and get your gap to Hakimi, but Hakimi is absolutely unaffected whatsoever, and the gap is already 2.4 seconds already into lap 3 out of 15. The thing is like ooh, I'm not quite sure if Davis and Parson, if they will work together though, because we have seen that struggle before in the past between Lakowski and Skinner and Glomsetter before. So this is, again, a really big uncertainty, Lorenzo.
No, I don't think they will be working together, and I think we can see that here with Craig Patterson getting fairly comfortable in front of Chris Davis, pulls out in front of him before Tamburello even, as Christian Glomsetter gets past Dan Hayek for P5, as we see James Rockway passing Nikolatkovsky into Tamburello as well for P8 further back. Well, we just about barely see that James Knox gets past him as well, up into P9. So Latkovsky's lost 10 positions in the span of 3 corners, as Rockway and Knox battling as well, but focus on what we have in front of us. I think now with Glomsetter in the gravel out of Villeneuve, we've seen so many people do that and get affected even worse than, well, Glomsetter got off easy, but we've seen people like Skinner and Carola and Petralia get affected by the gravel outside of Villeneuve. Glomsetter got lucky, but one driver who seems to be unlucky in the start of this race, good Nikolatkovsky, instead of going up, he seems to be going down. He's lost 2 positions already this lap. He's under threat of losing more, as Jonas Carola is right there behind him.
Yeah, and you could sort of start to see a train form behind Lakowski, which is a little bit worrying for the North Macedonian. As long as he kind of keeps it under control, then he should be fine. But Carola, despite the mistake that he's had, has been very good to make his way up through the field, and we can maybe see that sort of thing continuing for the Finnish driver. But he's got, again, another one that has done very well through the field in race 1 as well, Luvink. And another yellow flag into the 3rd sector. I'm not sure who that could be. I don't see anyone else dropping, so I think it seems to be kind of safe and fine for the time being. Craig Parson, that gap has now gone to 2.7 seconds, and Glomsetter is doing his absolute best to get his way up for the order, but Tice Youngster gets himself at the P3, puts himself a bit of a barrier between himself and Glomsetter with Chris Davis into P4, but Davis doesn't want to be barrier anymore, as he's going to try and look for an overtake. Going to be still holding side by side heading to Villeneuve. Glomsetter made it 3 wide almost, but he backs up at the last minute. Davis gives him just about enough of a room, and Glomsetter will happily take that to get up at the P4, a little bit wide, not reaching for the curb, but the Norwegian still gets into 4th though, just about.
It does, and Dan Hayek seems to be attacking for P5 as well. It's not that from Chris Davis, as James Rockway in the back is dropping down, and is Rockway going to be out of the race because it's dropped down outside of the top 10, outside of the top 15. He's out of the points, And what exactly happened to James Rockwell? Because we saw him there going through Piratella, and was it something at a tosser? Was there any contact, or was it just driver error, taking too much curb and spinning? We don't really know. We're going to check now. James Rockwell going through tosser there, and it was Alex Day.
Again. Yeah, it's the same one that we've seen again. Oh my goodness me, the avoidance that Cervinski, or I think it was Cervinski that had to do to make the avoidance there. That was so close there. Could have ended in tears. But that's exactly the same curve. You just need to hit it precisely at a moment where to go airborne. But from what we have seen, it's only just that curve. So the drivers really need to take a massive precaution, like when trying to hit that. But last we will carry on. Hayek and Davis, this is going to be for P5. They're going to try their best not to lose Glamsetter at all. And Hayek, a swift move round the outside of Chris. Nothing much Chris can do. And Hayek is doing his best to try and follow through to his teammate in Youngstra. But currently still, the Fox Esports driver is splitting between the two Moldova drivers. So is that their advantage out of the way, or do you think they could maybe control Glamsetter in this position, do you think, Lorenzo?
It's a tricky situation for them, as obviously I don't think they will be doing that, because Youngstra is very close to Patterson, under a second. 2 more tenths are going to be in DRS range as well. Do they risk getting Youngstra to slow down Glamsetter so Hayek can get past, and then lose time on Patterson and have to chase him down after getting disposed of Glamsetter? Or do they get Youngstra to chase down Patterson and then slow Patterson and Glamsetter down, which obviously is a double risk with double the amount of drivers that you have to slow down. But it's a tricky one for the race engineers over them all over drive. And I think I see Nathaniel Scarupa there in the YouTube chat saying all out, no slowing down. So I think you have our answer as well.
Okay, if that's our answer, then that's probably the philosophy that we're going to see from Hayek and Youngstra, though. I think Youngstra could truly do that and capitalise Craig Patterson and maybe get his way for the lead. But we can see in the back between Lakoski and James Knox, this is going to be for P8, and Knox makes it pretty easy with the DRS in hand. And the Hut Performance Engineering driver will make his way up into P8. Very good already. From his performances thus far. Lakoski trying his best to make a response through Villeneuve, but it's just unable to do so as through to the hairpin it goes. Knox has really cleared the North Macedonian easy as you like there for the Hot Performance Engineering driver. A good move.
Yeah, very good move by James Knox, and we mentioned how, well, I mentioned how I believe he'll be able to challenge for the top 5 in this race, not quite for the podium. And he seems to be on track for that, lap 7 of 15. He is just over a second behind Magnus Hockenhag, obviously with Magnus Hockenhag being one of his drivers. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But yeah, after Hockenhag is Davis and Hyde that he has to dispose of. And Mika Hakim, Ricardo Bissani is dropping. So we mentioned one camera and the other was dropped outside of the points. He was in P13, I think he was. So that's going to Grissini now. So something must have happened to Bissani into Aqua Minerale. I would love to take a look at that as he takes a big chunk of gravel on the exit of Grissini as well. What exactly happened to Ricardo Bissani, one of a plethora of home drivers here at Imola, come to think of it. Going out of Piratella through into Aqua Minerale. Oh, those are the rear.
That's fine. It's a bit on the nose, but it's fine. As long as the driver looks up ahead and you're predictable, I think that's a fine rejoin there from Ricardo Rochevich he could do. But he's making his way back up through the field, though. He's up into P16 already, having passed Amir Hazik and Cervinski, who's currently on the P15 at the minute. Is trying his best to make past Rokwai, who again is still doing his damage control from the curb earlier. But look at this attention up ahead. You can see our 3 protagonists for the race lead, aside from Kimi. Craig Patterson 3.6 seconds, Tess Juncture is 8 tenths away, and Glamsetter is 3 tenths away from that. Dan Hayek, though, is not doing much to relieve of Youngstra from that pressure, though, because he's 1.2 seconds. So he's kind of hoping that Patterson and Youngstra will be enough to break into Glamsetter enough for Hayek to catch up, I think.
but it's going to be hard because I think Youngstra clearly has more pace than Hayek does.
It is difficult to judge really because, I mean, I mentioned before after Ben Skinner unfortunately crashed out of the race from a bit of a love tap, admittedly, from James Knox. If Glomsetter finishes second here, or by any chance first, he will overtake Ben Skinner in the standings, even without penalties. So obviously he's going to be biting down hard. Fight Youngstra already, he's tasted podiums in Formula Sprint 2 and wins before, and in FS1 as well. He's going to be biting down hard. Craig Patterson obviously had a bit of a shaky start to the season, and he's going to be wanting this P2. So all three of them are going to give it their all here for the podium. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top, as Magnus Hockenhaug. I was talking about one Fox Esports further up ahead, the other one defending hard and trying to attack equally as hard. Not able to get past Chris Davis, but now under threat from Kurt Nikolutkovsky, and James Knox is there as well. Kurt Nikolutkovsky going into Piratella, he's got the inside here. I think he's got quite an overlap here on Hockenhaug, and he does, and he gets in front, but Hockenhaug might do a switch around here. He's going to have the inside now, but Antaco Mineral is going to be outside, and Lutkovsky clears him fairly easily, and now Hockenhaug stuck with his team boss right behind him. Again, as I mentioned before, interesting to see how this pans out. Oh, doesn't seem to be giving his team boss any easier time than he would to any other driver.
Yeah, great move there by Lukowski, and a fantastic duel for the first two sectors between both Hockenhaug and Lukowski. And Lukowski up into P7, he's trying his best to kind of get into the top 5, but time is slowly ticking down for the North Macedonian. Hockenhaug has not managed to get through to the field as his teammate has, as I just saw. That was Corral, I believe, that was going off. And oh goodness me, this is going to be an intense battle for P2 here. What's going to be in hand here? Thijs Youngstra doing his absolute best. Defender from Glomstedt. Craig Passon has lost P2, so now it seems to be just stuck between only now Youngstra and Glomstedt with 5 laps to go and 4.1 seconds away from Ikimi. So again, this is the thing that we've talked about, either working together or is it going to be one car for its own just for P2. Glomstedt, we know, only needs to finish P2 to take the championship lead for the first time ever in this year, and our first ever different FS2 driver to inherit a championship lead as well. So Glomstedt just needs to overtake Youngstra and just hope to defend from both Youngstra and Patterson. But we know Glomstedt, he's definitely going to try and aim for a win, but so will Youngstra as well, who's been eyeing for his as well. So again, a lot of things at the hand. If these two don't work together, then they both could be losing the race lead to Ikimi. And speaking of which, of the Alkits Nationals, Eamon Asabir is our second retirement, unfortunately.
Unfortunate to see Eamon Asabir obviously retire from the race. A home race for Asabir, and I mean, it's a shame to see that, but I mean, keeping our focus on the cars we have in front of us right now, as never mind, we take a look at what happened at the time in Asabir. That is one of the Hunter Birch cars. I think that is Eric Brenner.
Oof.
I would like to take a look at the onboard of that, because Asabir didn't have much space, but at the same time it looked like he tried to go for a space that wasn't going to be there. And that is indeed the case. No braking either until after he hit the wall, and I think that's entirely on Eamon Asabir. But moving on from Eamon Asabir, Christian Glomstedt in the meantime has gone past Thijs Youngstra, so we missed that unfortunately.
Passon has dropped.
Looking at
Passon has
what
dropped
happened.
from 4th to 5th as well. Hayek has gone past, so something must have happened to Passon while we were looking our way to Asabir's incident. In fact, you can already see the foreground that Craig has actually dropped really heavily, that he's now under threat from Lukowski. So something surely has happened to Craig, because it wasn't just by pure pace, because he was just at the back end of this. This is heading into the final 2 corners. Is it a bit too much onto the gravel? I think it is a bit too much on the gravel, and a simple spin, a good save from Craig to not make it any worse than it was, and does rejoin in well, just ahead of Lukowski, as we said, and who also, that was Chris Davis in 6th, so Lukowski got past Davis, so that's Lukowski into 6th, so he could well truly get top 5 at this moment, which would be a pretty good achievement for the North Macedonia here at this stage. Glomsetter and Youngstra are still in the midst of a battle, but that gap between Hakimi and Glomsetter has declosed just a little bit. It's now gone on to 3.9 seconds, and it is narrowing just ever so slightly with 3 laps to go.
It is, and I don't know, I think that Mika Hakimi, unless something happens to him, driver error, just
James Knox is retired.
Oh, James Knox is retired? James Knox is retired.
Yep.
We missed that completely.
James Knox has retired. The race 1 winner on his debut is going to be our 3rd retirement. Speaking of which, Titus Youngstra just narrowly made his way past Christian Glomsetter for P2 as they continue battle, and that's gone over to 4.7 seconds. That's someone else who's dropped off already. Calamity going on for the closing stages of the race. So we've got James Knox to have a look at to see what has happened to him, because he was doing pretty decently as far as I can tell, but unfortunately, his race 2 did not warrant the luck as he did in race 1. So we'll see what's happened to the Englishman here for hot performance. And oh, he's heading into the pits. Huh? He's called it quits.
What? Okay.
There's nothing that has seemed to be wrong with Knox's car. There's no front wing damage. There's no...
Maybe nose damage from the hit he gave to Ben Skinner, but I don't see how Ben...
But that was so early on.
It wouldn't make sense for him to retire 4 laps to go if he has nose damage. It's an enigma, that retirement, and hopefully we get to find out why it happened once we do our interviews. But yeah, James Knox retires, but one of his drivers, Christian Glomsetter, fairly easily overtakes the Titus Youngstra for P2 yet again, before turn 1 even, not even Tamburello. Very comfortable pass there.
Yeah, very, very good overtake there by Glomsetter. Exactly the same that Titus Youngstra kind of did a few laps prior, and these two are going to continue to battle between positions here. As you can see further back, the McKenna Racing, they're both in Ludwig and Cervinski, and of course for double points. But got Canalia and Rockwhite to kind of worry about here. The Italian outfit just ever so slightly on the grips of a bit of a pressure, and we're going to see if Rockwhite can maybe take a bit of advantage from it. But Cervinski is ever so determined to make his way past Canalia through to the hairpin, but the positions still remain the same, Lorenzo.
They do, and one thing we didn't see while we're looking at all the replays, Riccardo Bissani, he dropped from P13 outside of the top 15. He's now back up to P12, and I think I saw somewhere in chat Rafael Lohem mentioning there was a double overtake he performed, so I'd like to check that after the race if we have enough time before the interviews. But yeah, Riccardo Bissani has done well to recover from his earlier spin, back to where he dropped off from, and even further up, I think. Yeah, with James Knox retiring, he's 1 place up, and yeah, very good recovery from the Italian there. And Andrea Canalia, another Italian, recovering well after going onto the gravel there from Grassini. Not lost much time to the drivers behind, as Chawinski and Rockwhite there. Rockwhite seemed to have carried too much speed, trying to think of a move on the outside of Rivazza there, and went to the gravel and lost P15 as well to Mark Silagi. So the Hungarian now moves up into P15 and the last points being position. I think I saw a move further up. Yes, there we go. Okay, Hagen Davis.
Yeah, and they're going to continue to fight a little bit, still through Villeneuve. And Ockenheim narrowly just makes his way past through Davis. I think Davis is a bit of a struggle there between Lukowski and Powson has made his way through. And now it's going to be Ockenheim, but the Englishman will still hold on to 8th for the time being, as we're narrowly approaching through to our penultimate lap now, as Davis just looking ever so closely to make the move, but is just unable to do so. And you can also see as well Cervinski still applying the pressure onto Canalia for P13, but but he's still got about a lap and so to kind of make a maneuver. Hayek and Youngstra, meanwhile, the Moldova drive, Glomsic has already kind of went past Youngstra and is doing his absolute best to catch up to keep it already down to 3.6 seconds, but now it could be a battle between Youngstra and Hayek for P3. As it said, flat towel is what the team boss has given, so we think it could be coming down this to the very end. Speaking of which, Cody Nikolakowski has done a pretty good recovery. We saw him struggle a little bit at the start, but now he's made his way up into a chance for a P3 if he plays his cards right. Can Cody make the right cards and make the right calls to get that podium maybe? We'll have to find out as we go through to our final lap between Hayek and Lakowski. This is going to be heading over down to turn 1. The slipstream that Youngstra is giving is already aiding the North Macedonian, but Cody's still going to make his opportunity to take it, but he's not close enough to make the move though, and narrowly avoids chaos there at the third corner. Lorenzo.
Yeah, there was a bit of contact, but again, luckily, nothing really happened. And unfortunately, in the final lap, we see Hansko Mebius has DNF'd. I think will be classified as a finisher still, but we have no time to look at what happened to him right now. Couldn't Nicola Tkowski, there's yellow flags in sector 1 again. I think that was Jamie Klump dropping, so we're looking at one maybe Zeeuw, the other one is struggling. And I think
Hansko Mebius is retired as well.
Yes, he has indeed. And yeah, as I mentioned, looking at one Zeeuw, the other one struggling, and I think Nicola Tkowski struggling as well, in the sense that he won't get past the duo of Emerald Odra here. But I'd like to turn our attention further up the field. Mika Hakimi, there we go, has gone past Grassini. He's approaching the Rivata sequence here, and I'll take over from here, Amir, because I know you don't want to get involved too much. But Mika Hakimi, there we go, rounding the second Rivata, and the Malaysian proving yet again why he is such a acclaimed sim racing driver and motorsports driver in general. Crossing the line, getting Elk International's first win in Formula Sprint 2. Christian Glomsetter finishes in P2 and is our second championship leader of this season after 6 rounds. On the 7th round, Ben Skinner is finally toppled, and Magnus Sockenhaug, as he managed to beat Chris Davis. I think they've crossed the line already, they have, and Magnus Sockenhaug finishes P7. I think there's no battles left to see. I think everyone in the top 15 has already crossed the line. Andrea Kinaya, I think, has defended from Mark Silagi, and Silagi has defended from Rockway as well. They have indeed. So yeah, everyone in the points paying position has crossed the line.
Yeah, I want to look for a quick replay to Mebus's retirement, because it was just so late into the race. I think we were really preoccupied for what's happened between Youngstra and Hayek and company that we didn't quite to see what happened to the ST Racing's retirement. So we'll see what sort of endeavour that has happened to him. Let's see for the replay. Oh, a little bit of a spin. And is it just not good recovery? Oh no, he calls it quits at the exits of the...
I don't understand that decision, really. If you're already in the final lap, just get it across the line.
Oh, well, it was the final few laps, so I get... Yeah, I guess...
I mentioned this before. If we have enough time, Remco, please. I saw a mention of a Riccardo Bisani double overtake, if we can take a look at that before moving on to the interviews. If Chris Williamson will allow us as well. I think... That's a good question. What lap it was, because we missed it from all the replays. So, that's a good question.
R-Factor 2, everyone.
R-Factor 2.
Woo.
This
we love
might take a while. Well, I say we go through the finishing over while you try and find the overtake Remco, if that is in any way possible.
No bias whatsoever. I will do this as unbiased as I possibly can. But
I can do it.
Oh no, I'm fine with it. But thank you for your trust in me, both Remco and Lorenzo, for doing this. Yay! Mika Hakimi, after he won in Montreal last year, so that means that he has managed to win again. He is the let's see, 1, 2, 3. He's the 4th. Elk International will be the 4th team of the newcomers to have got themselves a race win in their debut FS2 season, following through McKenna, Emerald Overdrive, and McManus Motorsports Wow, what a combination. Christian Klomsetter takes through the championship lead for the first time ever in his GPVWC career, and for the first time as well, GPVWC sees a new Formula Sprint 2 championship leader. Thijs Youngstra does beat Dan Hayek through to the line, as it will be another great performance for Emerald Overdrive, 3rd and 4th, to accelerate their charge in the team's championship for FS2. Tony Nikolakowski for Zeeuw follows through with P5 with Craig Passon starting on pole in P11, means that he would finish in P6. Still very good there from the Gertz driver regardless. Magnus Okerek of Fox Esports is in 7th with Chris Davis of Camera Racing Team. I think he's finished in 8th as well, or finished in 9th. So again, 2 great races there from the Englishman and for Camera as well. Mitja Luvink is 9th from Canon Racing after a great performance from them as well for the Dutchman. And it's Jonas Karla who, after a struggling race 1, manages to get points and completes through the top 10 for Priority 1 at P10. Outside of that, we have David Young for Killer Racing in 11th, with Riccardo Losani for Camera Racing Team, who has a double overtake so great we're trying to look for the replay for it in P12. Philip Zawinski for McKenna Racing is P13, with Andrea Quinalia for Fretchenair in 14th. Mark Salagi is the last of the point scores for Killer Racing in 15th, with James Roquai in Fretchenair just missing out in 16th. Nova McKenna for the Academy team is in 17th, with Davide Zanini for Orbit Motorsports in 18th. Amir Hazik for Hot Performance Engineering is 19th, with Eric Brenna completing through to the top 20 for Hunter Birch Simulations. Outside of that one, for P21st, we have got Jamie Klump, who dropped through the order on the last 2 laps, so unfortunately the Mapsio driver will only finish P21st, with Mihailo Vizsantjevich for SD Racing is 22nd, Mark Mateus Whitman for VMS Summits Racing is 23rd, with Leila Petraglia being last of the finishers in 24th. Haskell Mevis, James Knox, Eamon Assenbeer and Ben Skinner have all been our retirements, with the no-shows unfortunately being Alex Day and Francesco Grimolazzi. That's been very exciting 2 races, I think, honestly. You were right, actually, in terms of we would get a first-time race winner. Technically, we got one in the form of a driver and the other in form of a team. So that's 2 points added there for you, Lorenzo. Congratulations for that one. Did we manage to find through the overtake, if possible? That's fine. It's okay. We'll have time for that then, but for the moment we'll look over through to the interviews now, and we've got quite a handful of interviews to go through. I will start first with the one that will take over through to the championship leader in the form of Christian Klomsetter. Yeah, I will do that one. Christian, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
Strong 2 races from yourself on your end, and as a result, you've now inherited the championship lead. I'm sure you must have been extremely happy with that. It's the first time in 7 races, actually, you've led the championship FS2, so I imagine you must be extremely thrilled.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I had really good pace today. I was really shocked. I was struggling a bit in practice before the race, and then qualifying didn't quite go my way. So, yeah, I'm really happy with somehow leading the championship. I don't know how I managed to do that, but we'll see. Maybe I can stretch it a bit as well.
It was, I think it might have been a pretty interesting qualifying for you. You've seen James Knox having take pole position, but you're in the midst in the first race. You're in the midst in a battle between yourself, Skinner, and Lakowski. Did you kind of imagine that you would get that from the continuous battle that you were seeing between Lakowski and Skinner, that there was still a chance for P1, or did you think that P2 was the best you're gonna get?
I think James was way too quick today, so P2 was probably the best I was going to get in race 1. I was surprised I was even able to catch up to them, because I was, 5 seconds behind after lap 5. So I caught up to them really quickly, and then luckily Ben did a mistake, which pushed Latkovsky off track, and then I managed to get through and pull away.
Yeah, you're really lucky that you were so far back to have not been involved with that unfortunate mistake there from Skinner, and made your way to P2. I think in a similar situation as well, you kind of saw yourself. Did you think the battle between yourself, Skinner, and Lakowski was similar to what we've seen in race 2 between I think it was yourself, Patterson, and Youngstra, was it? And Hayek as well for race 2. Did you have the game plan between yourself and Oklag early on to not battle as well, since you knew the stakes at hand, especially since Skinner retired?
Yeah, the battles were fairly similar. It was a bit different with Lotkowski and Skinner. They were helping each other a bit more with DRS, and Youngstra was a bit quicker than Craig, so he managed to get past, which made it easier for me. With Magnus, I asked him if he could not battle me too hard, and he let me have the position quite easily. So yeah, it was quite nice. Before the race, we didn't really have a plan. We just kind of went with it, however the race turned out to be. We didn't know if we were going to be battling each other or if I was going to be stuck in some train or something like that, but it worked out quite nice.
And I can imagine from being in that position, you and Magnus were up against the Emerald Overdrive. We've seen Emerald before in the past doing really well in terms of teamwork, and they've been in advantageous positions. How did you, from your own experience, how did you feel navigating past Dan and Tice en route to that P2? Because I imagine it was, I think, a little bit difficult as well, since you were doing it on your own, I think.
Yeah, I had to do it twice. I did it in race 1 as well after I did some mistakes and fell back, so I had to overtake them early in the race 1. So I just kind of used the same tactics from that race in race 2, but Youngstra was a bit more on it, and he was able to stick within my DRS a bit too much. I did a mistake. I shouldn't have. He did a mistake out of the last chicane, and I passed him, giving him DRS, which I probably shouldn't have done. Should have just sat behind and gotten an easy overtake down the straight. But once I got past for the last time, luckily he did some mistake and I managed to pull away. But they're really quick, they're really on it, so if they keep this up, it's going to be a tight Teams Championship battle.
With Skinner unfortunately retiring in race 2, that means that I believe you're the only driver that has scored in every single race, and you have never finished lower than P8, I believe, and which you've only finished on like 4 occasions. It's kind of approaching through to midway point of the season. We've got Silverstone coming up next, and it's going to be the first race that you're going to enter as a championship leader. Is the preparations different for chasing for a championship versus leading championship? And what are you going to hope for Silverstone, both as a championship leader and also for your team as well?
Well, now that school is finishing, I've had more time to prep for the race. So for Imola, I put in on a lot of hours, and I see myself doing the same for Silverstone as well, since I have nothing else to do. So yeah, I think prep will be as normal, or as I did for this race. I was really lucky with the setup. Some help from James as well, with some lines I was struggling to figure out. But with that, it's going to be, I think, an interesting race next time out.
Thanks very much for your time, Christian, and well done on your 2 races, and a very well-deserved race win. Championship lead. Massive congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks very much to Christian for that time. I'll turn my attention over to Lorenzo.
No, I'm hearing that we managed to find the Riccardo Bisani overtake.
Okay.
Can we have that really quickly? Let's see. How interesting was it? It's still screen. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's out of Revatsa on the straight. That is one of the freshman areas. I think that was Rockway. And then Nadia boxes him in. Slightly managed to muscle his way through in the middle of both of them. Rockway flies past through the gravel, but that was as entertaining as it was made out to be. He does muscle his way through, get into the middle. He doesn't break as much. That was Rockway going through the gravel. Kaspersky neither cleanly, but Rockway yields position as well after rejoining, and Pisani disposes of both fresh and errors through the element. So yeah, there we go. That's that. Oh, and
That's
quite topical that we saw that as I see Albert Dreyer waiting for an interview. So you know what, let's get Albert Dreyer in. We haven't heard of Albert Dreyer so far this season, as we welcome the Carlisle Racing Team owner into the interview with Albert Dreyer. Albert, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can. I can. Should
Welcome.
probably turn you up a bit. There we go.
Okay. Right then. Yeah, that was a very good round for Camerawork there, where I think that was your first double points in a race this season. And after a bit of a shaky start to the season, especially with the lineups as well, Chris Davies and Riccardo Pisani seem to have settled quite well into Formula Sprint 2, and you're finally hitting the ground running.
I mean, yeah, we had a bit of struggles in the start of the season with our lineup. Yeah, we came into it. I mean, we scored points on our first ever show, so it's like not horrible, but yeah, until I think like Malaysia, we had a lot of roster inconsistency, and yeah, we couldn't really figure it out. And I think after Malaysia, we kind of got to the agreement that Raphael would step down to reserve role and that Chris would come in after Canada. I mean, double points is nothing I'll complain about. I think both of them are a bit unhappy with the results because I feel like they both think they could have done better. And, there's still, 9 more rounds to go in the season, so it's not the end of the world. We have time to crawl maybe up into the top 10, even though we might be shooting for the stars.
Well, I think that the way it's going so far, it is very possible. But, I mean, my question for you is, obviously you mentioned that shaky start to the season, and now finally recovering and shooting for the top 10. Do you really think it's as unfeasible as you make it out to be? Because the teams in front of you, Freccianera, Elk International, Aquila Racing, they are good teams in their own right, but they don't seem to have the same consistency that you have in the last 2 rounds, 3 rounds, if you want to stretch it a bit.
I mean, now we also have Hutt, right behind us. They got that win in round 1, but I think getting a top 5 is a bit of a reach, but top 10 I think is possible because Freccianera I think are 50-ish points ahead of us, and I think 2-3 good rounds will definitely be up there. Aquila Racing I think is a team that we can definitely top because their results have come down a bit recently, and I don't really want to count Elk as Hakimi just won. So maybe we can go up and get a good little fight with maybe VMS or McManus, but I don't think that our championship challenge is definitely dead in the water.
All right, Amir, any questions from your side for Albert here?
What inspired your livery?
Well, when a bit before we got into the start of the season, we actually I don't want to say rebranded, but we changed up our color scheme, and our great livery designer Chukio, big shout out to him. He's been doing our liveries this season. It's a livery he wanted to experiment with, and I think it looked pretty well. And we secured a few sponsors the last few months, and I think that's really helped. So it's a beautiful livery, if you ask me. I might be a bit biased though.
Do you feel disadvantageous to being the only Asian FS2 team?
Not at all, really. To call us Asians a bit of a stretch. We don't have an Asian driver in our FS2 lineup.
Yep.
But no, I don't. Well, yeah, the team's Japanese. We just don't have a Japanese driver or any Asian driver for that sake. I don't think it's disadvantageous. Yeah, we look a bit out of place if you look at the list of flags down the side of the standings, but might as well try and make an impact and do something, I guess.
Well, I wouldn't say
That's
that
nice too.
you're any more out of place than Liechtenstein and Guernsey would be.
Well, not really. I mean, those are interesting countries to have racing teams, if you ask me. But you know, what do I
Liechtenstein
know?
makes sense. The tax haven. Same with
True. Yeah, good point. There's a lot of red and white flags, so you could argue some of them could be secretly Monegasque.
Good one.
Yeah,
Alright.
thank you so much for joining us here, Albert. Yeah, congratulations on the double points. I've just seen it's the second double points of this season. But yeah, hopefully more of that in the future.
Double points in Malaysia. Well,
Yeah.
thank you though. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good luck in the future.
Well, thank you.
Right then, and I think it's wise we close this off with the pairing of Nathaniel Skarupa and Vice Youngstra Emerald Overdrive team owner and driver as we get them on.
Shall we bring the
board
team
with
principal in as well?
us. Yeah, why not? Why won't we have the team principal in with his own driver?
Great.
Alright, there we go. And Mateusz Pishin joins us as well because
He's the team principal.
Yeah,
He's the goat.
exactly.
Really?
So you free can hear us?
Yes.
Nice. Amir, do you want to kick it off?
Well done. You both did you guys did really well in terms of up your field. I think your team both scaled the maximum points in race 1 and in race 2. It's another repeat that we've seen a bit from race 1 in Montreal and also race 2 in Sepang. So clearly momentum has kind of swung for your side. What was from your point as a driver, what was the importance of maintaining that momentum after the conclusion of Montreal?
Well, it's always good to keep the momentum, but you know, seeing that some teams in front of us are dropping down now and us just getting better and better, I think it's important that we keep working together, keep this pace up. Even though at the start of the session I didn't really feel confident with my pace, but it worked out in the end. So yeah, I'm happy. I hope we can keep this up and yeah, maybe even fight for a championship at the end of the year. But that's a stretch. That's really far away. So we're gonna see what happens.
Nathaniel?
Just I'm mainly repeating what Jongstra said already. Keeping up the pace is really important, and especially with a lot of the top teams, and especially with the many mistakes they've been doing lately, I think it's important that we try to capitalize that as much as possible.
What about you, Mateusz?
I don't think he's here.
I don't think he's here.
Mateusz might be busy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
might.
always.
He may come on later. I don't know.
Maybe not. Alright, my question for you is obviously now that the standings have been updated, the gap between yourselves and Fox Esports has narrowed down. Now Fox Esports obviously was thought to be chasing down Orbit Motorsport, and I think that will still happen with the departure of Kasper Kuritz and Ben Skinner seemingly being in a slump as it stands, but you're not far from them either. I think that is that's what, 24 points between yourselves and Fox Esports. So that's one race, one win, and you're right there. So do you think you can challenge Fox and Orbit for the team's title, or is that not really a primary concern for you and you're just going to take it race by race?
Well, I think we can definitely, get close. Just seeing that, both me and Dan get good results in both races, and it's basically the opposite for the other teams. Well, Fox had a really good race today, but Orbit had a really, really bad race today. So we've caught up massively to them as well. I think if we as a team can keep doing this, and maybe the other teams they have slightly, worse driver pairings, but it's still really close. It's gonna be a fun battle to see and fun battle to drive. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What do you have to say, Nathaniel?
Well, yeah, I feel like, at least to me personally, I think our closest competitor is definitely Fox Esports, and it would be nice to like try to overtake them in the standings. But they have really good drivers behind them, and I don't. It'll be hard to do, yes, but I think it'll be very much possible. As for Orbit, I don't know if we can overtake them, but if Ben continues to make mistakes like this, which probably he won't because he's a really good driver, and with Casper out of the question, it's more of can we catch up in time? But with so many races left, we'll see.
Any more questions from you, Amir?
No, but I'm glad I got all the information I need. Seriously, well done to all of you three, Nathaniel, Tice, and Mitesh, if you can hear me as well. It's extremely good, strong results, and it does show that Imola drivers continue to go up. And
Draw standings updated.
Oh,
Very
nice. Fantastic. Yeah, you can see the gap already 2 points away from Lakoski as well. So, again, just shows that meteoric rise that Moldova Drive has been having from a bit of the first half of this period. But that's a congratulations to you all from my end, and all the best luck in Silverstone.
Yeah. And now you look in for Baba Gallo as well, Nathaniel.
No. No.
Yeah, come on, man, lock in. You got this.
Yeah, it's a road
I
course.
don't know.
It's a road course. It's a road course. You have
I
to.
don't know.
You have to.
I may crash into turn 1, but we'll see. I may just give. I'll give.
Baba
Lux
Gallo
the
is
win
not
and
that
just-
hard. The first
No,
one
no,
is,
no. It's not that hard, but I can totally fake it to be.
Right. Alright then. Well, on that note, thank you for joining us, you three. And yeah, good luck for the rest of the future of the season. And Nathaniel, see you on Saturday.
Or not.
What do you mean not? Right, this is dragging on for long enough. Get out of here.
Thank you,
Get
guys.
out of here.
Aw.
I think
and,
that's a good note for us to end
Can I-
interviews.
Can I have a question? I want a question.
I can provide an answer, maybe.
Give me a question.
Oh, I can pose a question? Okay. Any closing thoughts on the round we just witnessed?
I'm a team boss. My driver just won. Come on.
Oh, in that context, I don't know. How do you feel, mate?
Eh.
The most underwhelming win in FS2 recent history, it seems.
What can I say? Look at the Irishman, right?
Well, no, you just abandoned your post as commentator to be team boss. So you're being interviewed right now. Go on, give an interview like a team boss would.
Oh, Christ above. Great. Very great. Hakimi has been a bit unlucky in the races on. I think the one that definitely comes to mind has been Montreal, I think was the one that kind of comes to mind when he was unlucky. I think a similar one in Suzuka as well. So I think he's been very capable of race 2 victories, but I think with that luck in hand, I'm very happy he's got finally a race win. I think it was, I wouldn't say long overdue, but I think there's been opportunities where it could have come earlier. But a win nonetheless is quite good. And honestly, I really didn't expect the team or how strong of a field we had in FS2 to kind of get our first win so early. So I'm surprised. But yay, I'm very happy for Mika. I'm very proud of him. And yeah, I think I think AIM has just been struggling a bit on his end, but I think I feel like he's been a bit unlucky from where he has been qualifying, but the showcases in Imola shows that he's been performing. So I think it's kind of showing we're kind of on a good trajectory for the second half of the season and just building upon that. But
Yeah, that was.
any other questions?
Yeah, you read my mind for the next question. Now, with the standings as they are updated without the penalties so far, you did currently sit P9, but you are just 17 points off of McKenna up in 6th. And you mentioned Hakimi has been doing well so far, but Ayman Asabi has been underperforming. I mean, is there anything you're going to attempt to do going into Silverstone to try and close that gap to McKenna in regards to not just Mika but mainly Iman here, with all due respect to them?
I have faith in them though. I believe, and he also believes that. I think whenever he's motivated, I think he can be a good driver, and has shown to be that before. I mean, he has scored points before, so it's shown that his post-scoring positions is there. The thing is that there's just such a, not a big talent drop-off, but the lower you qualify, the worse it is that you're amongst the field, and the more lucky you become, it just kind of like impacts or takes its toll. I think I've seen that before with other drivers as well. Tino Kurz was the one that came to mind in Jeddah. So it's a big unknown though, because Silverstone is 2 weeks away, and I think McKenna is, hello Nova, if you're listening, you're my biggest rival. Me and her have been in contention for like the highest place Irish team in, and we're 17 points adrift, but she's like 6th and my team's 10th, so that shows how close the team championship has been. But of course, I think Cervinski has just been unlucky. I think whenever Cervinski does come to his form, I think he's more equated with the FS2 machinery at times than Mika is. But I think Cervinski's just for now had a bit of an off season for a bit. Also, it's his first time racing in quite a while, right? Because he's out of the car for a while, like 4 weeks. So I think he can easily come up to speed in Silverstone and then just hit the ground running. So I think our best thing is not only just to fight against McKenna, but in general, it's just to respond accordingly. It's just a shame that my PC has been dead and I've had no idea how to repair it, because as you know, Lorenzo, I'm not heavily involved, but I am pretty involved in like practices and stuff, and I try to do whatever I can to make my drivers' lives easier. Just not having a PC just makes that harder.
That's true.
But I'm there in spirit, and I'm there to support them. But yeah, thanks for that time, Lorenzo.
Thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and see you.
I had a great time cosplaying as a team principal. But thank you very much. But until that's our conclusions. Any closing thoughts, Lorenzo?
Good round that. First time winner in James Knox. Mika Hakimi back to his winning ways. Good battling all round. Christian Glomsetter becoming our new championship leader. All around a good round. There were some incidents. There was some questionable driving. It's unavoidable to admit that. But the extent at which it was has been significantly smaller than it was prior to the spring break. And I think that's a positive immediately, even if, for example, the races were boring. The fact that the racing standards have improved, I think, is a positive in and of itself. So yeah, hopefully more of that in 2 weeks' time in Silverstone. Any closing thoughts for himself?
Great race. I'll carry on. Thank you very much, Lorenzo. Christian Glomsetter, after 6 races, Ben Skinner has been holding on to the championship lead. But then as gap as big as 6C, at one point, it's now gone down to a 1 point adrift in favor for Glomsetter. The Fox Esports driver will take for his first championship lead, and all the tide seems to have been shifting with Casper Kurtz gone, and Orbit Motorsports are in need for a driver to suit up against a dominant and uprising Fox Esports with Glomsetter at the helm, and also with Emil Dovo drive with continued and again a strong team performance. And to cap all that off, a fourth new team has clinched their first race win in the GPVWC career ladder in the form of Elkins National, with Mika Akimi continuing that race win in FS2 accolade continuing from last year. But that has been it for us in Imola. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll be back over in here with we've got the 11th of June hosting through San Marino. Oh boy, I need my calendar. I usually have my calendar up, but this is a new team New PC. The 11th of June, FS1 will be hosted over here at Imola. The 16th of June, it will be Super Lights. And then it's the 18th of June that will be hosting the Grand Super League. All those will take place here at San Marino. In the 15th of June, we're going to be back for the Academy Series as well. I think we're racing in Poland, I'm not quite sure. But for those of you that want to stay for more Formula Sprint 2 action, we'll be back over at the 23rd of June as we host through the 8th round of the championship at Silverstone. But until then, thank you so much to Lorenzo Eterovic-Funcic for being here alongside me as per usual. Thank you very much to Remco de Zeeuw in the broadcasting and camera side of things. He's been absolutely phenomenal all season long. And thank you all as well for watching. We'll see you back over at the 11th of June, and from us and from Lorenzo, we'll be back over at the 23rd of June. But until then, I've been Amir. Thank you all so very much for watching, and that's us from Imola.
Goodbye.